What's up, guys? It's your boy Omnisensei back with part 3 of Reborn in Naruto OC broadcasts the future to the Shinobi world. If you enjoy my content, consider buying me a coffee, link in the description. Like the video, share, and subscribe. Remember to check out the author of this fantastic fanfic. Link in the description. With all that out of the way, let's get into it. For a long while, Nagato woke up quietly, with a wise gleam in his eyes. He now had countless ideas and sufficient strength, and was ready to reform the shinobi world drastically. Unfortunately, Nagato sighed. He could only let the pains walk for him because of physical reasons, and the pains still had a certain limit in the distance. This was too inconvenient. Nagato, drink this medicine. When Nagato was lamenting, Konan suddenly handed over a small green medicine bottle. And without saying a word, she pulled open Nagato's mouth and poured it down. When a group of people in the exam space saw this scene, they suddenly narrowed their eyes quietly and speculated one by one. Is that little green bottle Konan's additional reward? What could it be? Maybe enhancing strength or healing one's body. The cooling sensation went down his throat. Nagato was stunned to find that the cooling sensation had spread throughout his body in that instant. Then, an unbearable terrible itch appeared on him, as if countless ants were rhythmically moving through his body, gnawing at his heart in unison. Konan watched Nagato nervously. At the moment when the water of life was poured into him, Nagato's body began to swell like a balloon. Dozens of black chakra sticks inserted behind him had been squeezed out of the body by the newly grown muscles. At the moment when the black rods were separated from the body, all the pains immediately fell to the ground together. But Nagato had no time to evaluate the others. At the moment, he was leaning on the wheelchair with one hand, trembling to get up. I recovered. Nagato looked at his lower body in disbelief. Although he was still unstable, he did stand up. What exactly did Konan give me? It made him recover so quickly from his incurable injuries. Even his drained chakra body recovered altogether. This was simply a miracle. Nagato shook his fists excitedly. Now, he was more than a few times stronger than he was earlier. It was such a massive difference. This exam is over. Please leave the exam room in an orderly manner. A light door made of fog suddenly appeared, and the crowd understood that this was the exam space starting to drive them away. With a twinkle in his eye, Nagato picked up a black rod of chakra that had fallen from his back, bent it directly into a bracelet, and slipped it over his hand. Suddenly, all the pains lying on the ground opened their eyes and dashed towards the exit. The black rod of chakra was Nagato's means of controlling the pains. Although it was more efficient to control them while it was inserted into his flesh than affixed to the surface of his body, at the moment, Nagato disregarded these because of his own powerful chakra. Quickly occupying the exit, Nagato's feet moved. His body suddenly rose up, and his red cloud robe was billowing in the whistling wind as he passed through the doorway and landed on the ground outside the door. 7 figures in a semicircle directly surrounded the exit. Skywalk. The other people of Akatsuki looked as if they were stirred and also moved. They also left the exam space and also stood at the entrance. Orochimaru looked at Jiraiya, who looked glum, and slowly walked out, followed by Zetsu and then Jiraiya. The fog dispersed slowly, and the weight on Ichihabido's body disappeared. He quickly got up, took out a robe from space, and covered himself with it. His feet moved, he rose up in the air and rushed out of the exam space. Zetsu. Out of the exam space, Ichihabido was still in the air when he roared. A huge wooden thorn appeared in his hand. He directly thrust it towards Zetsu. Abido. Black Zetsu gave a hateful cry and looked at the incoming wooden spike with a disdainful smile. Ichihabido dared to attack him with wood release. Does he really think that his wood release was awakened by himself? Ha. Zetsu didn't move. Ichihabido suddenly became stiff and fell from midair. He was horrified to find that half of his body couldn't move, as if he was controlled by another person. What made him feel more terrified was that half of his body suddenly bulged with a whole white human-shaped creature. This is White Zetsu. Black Zetsu looked at Ichihabido with disdain, and told White Zetsu in Abido's body to strike directly. The moment White Zetsu made a move, Jiraiya's figure appeared in front of Abido. Ninja technique. Wild Lion's main technique. Jiraiya's spiky hair instantly became longer and directly bounded Ichihabido, together with the White Zetsu on him, saving Ichihabido. Swish, 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 swish. At the same time, the other Akatsuki members had moved to surround Zetsu, with Abido, Jiraiya, Orochimaru, and Itachi in the middle. They quietly waited for Nagato to speak. As soon as Nagato gave the order, they would instantly strike and turn the 5 people in the middle into dust. Uchiha Itachi stood quietly. He was the only one who didn't do anything since they came out of the space. If it had been the former me, all 5 of you would be dead by now. Nagato spoke slowly, his voice indescribably strange. The original lofty and cold voice, at the moment, had a different inexplicable tone of affinity. Killing people cannot solve a dispute. War cannot achieve peace. Jutsu is the primary productive force. Zetsu, leave the ring, and I'll let you go. Nagato's words stunned Black Zetsu. He didn't expect Nagato to take the initiative to let himself go. This could he be afraid of my relationship with the Uchiha Madara? Black Zetsu had lived for thousands of years, but at this moment, only such a possibility came to mind. Even so, it was good for him. It's just a delay in the plan, and for the time being, he could still keep the underground white Zetsus from being exposed. Black Zetsu hesitated for a few seconds, took the guy ring directly off his right pinky finger, and threw it at Nagato. Then with a deep look at Nagato's Rinnegan and an eye roll at Uchiha Ibido, Zetsu's body shook and sank to the ground. After waiting underground for a while, seeing that Nagato really didn't do anything else, he left with the countless white Zetsus who had just arrived in this area in a big wave. Orochimaru, take your ring. Work hard to achieve peace in the world. I'll let bygones be bygones. Orochimaru blinked and pulled out a ring from his pocket that had the word Ku, and put it on his left pinky finger. Glancing at Jiraiya, Orochimaru walked out of the encirclement without saying a word, and joined the group of the remaining 3 Akatsuki members. No one knew whether it was intentional or not, but Orochimaru joined the encirclement right next to Haiden. Haiden-san, can you give me the black cloud robe in your hand first? When Haiden heard Orochimaru's words, he subconsciously hugged the robe in his arms tighter, stared at Orochimaru with wide eyes, and looked at Orochimaru with intimidation. You rotten snake, you just came back, and now you want my robe. TSK. Keep dreaming. Nagato didn't pay attention to Orochimaru's side. He took his eyes off Jiraiya and settled on Itachi. Itachi quietly lifted the shoe ring on his hand, joined the group encirclement, silently expressing everything with his action. Uchiha Itachi's heart was in turmoil right now. Besides, he didn't have much contact with Jiraiya, and he hated Uchiha Ibido even more, and wanted to get rid of him. Seeing this scene, the corners of Nagato's mouth picked up slightly. Jiraiya, I'm going to have to keep you here, for now, to keep you from delivering the message. Nagato then stepped into the encirclement. This time, he was ready to take matters into his own hands and capture Jiraiya. Yes, to capture Jiraiya, not to kill him. He would subdue Jiraiya, and then he would act as a teacher and educate Jiraiya. And make Jiraiya agree with him. In this way, he would have one more like-minded person. By the way, the rest of Akatsuki should also study together. And every time after listening to his lectures, each person must also submit a report. Nagato was well aware of how fast the members of Akatsuki would make progress and how painful it would be. Because in the exclusive reward, that's how he got here. Nagato, don't go on the wrong path again. You already know that your idea is wrong. Come back to Konohagakure with me, and I'll get justice for you and Yuhiko. Jiraiya looked at Nagato with awe. He knew that he was no match for Nagato. He fought with the original 6 pains, but only 3 were destroyed with his full strength. Now, fight with Nagato in his prime. He dared not even to think about it. Justice. Nagato smiled and shook his head. Since he was beaten by the old man with that cane a few times, Nagato understood how important it was to be able to laugh. The reason why Nagato shook his head was that Jiraiya still didn't understand the situation. The exam space could revive Hashigaki Kisame, which proved that there was no difficulty in reviving a person for the space. What's more, Kabuto was Orochimaru's spy, which he knew. That was to say, Orochimaru also had a jutsu to revive the dead. He had more than one way to bring Yuhiko back to life. What kind of justice was needed? Nagato didn't want to waste time with Jiraiya. From the video analysis of the first question, he had learned that if he didn't have such a smart mouth like Uzumaki Naruto did, the best way to persuade the opponent was to defeat him in battle. Tie him up and convince him slowly. Uzumaki Nagato was about to make his move when suddenly Uchiha Ibido, who was tied by the hair, reacted mentally and his Mangekyo Sharingan slowly rotated. Immediately afterward, a pitch-black void appeared, from which 2 figures, one black and one green, jumped out. Nagato raised an eyebrow, not expecting these 2 to appear in this way. When Hashigaki Kisame, who was carrying Sam Nahata, saw the newcomers, his face suddenly froze, and his expression was unnatural. Had a Kakashi and Might Guy came. Kakashi and Guy had just landed. When they saw that Jiraiya had subdued Uchiha Ibido, they were overjoyed. They got into Kamui's dimension space at the end of the live broadcast. Sure enough, when Ibido opened his Kamui's dimension space, they could also appear beside Ibido. At this moment, seeing the other Akatsuki members standing at attention, the three of them suddenly put their backs against each other and took precautions. I don't have much chakra, I can't take everyone away. I must leave one person behind to break the trail. The one who spoke was Kakashi, who was already a little pale. He could barely unleash his Sharingan powers and take two people away. Jiraiya was just about to say that he should remain when he heard Might Guy directly say, "You take Jiraiya-sama and Uchiha Bito first. They know a lot more important information. I'll stay and break the trail." Hearing this, Jiraiya took a deep look at Might Guy. Strength, understanding, and putting others first. It was with shinobi like Might Guy, Konoha was able to realize the title of the first shinobi village in the shinobi world. When the situation was urgent, Jiraiya immediately decided, okay, leave it to Guy. Kakashi, let's go. Kakashi glanced at Guy, his eyes fluctuating several times. While gritting his teeth, he directly opened Kamui's dimension, bringing Jiraiya and Uchiha Bito into the dimension space. Kakashi was very remorseful at the moment. If he knew Jiraiya would subdue Bito, he wouldn't have asked Guy for help and came on his own. Right now, Guy had to stay there to stop them from chasing them. With the current state of Akatsuki's people, Kakashi had already thought of what would happen to Guy, which made him even more remorseful. Don't think too much, Kakashi. This is Guy's choice. Kakashi looked at Jiraiya, but found that although Jiraiya had tears in his eyes, he was full of perseverance. Uchiha Itachi looked at the motionless Nagato with surprise, and so did the other members of Akatsuki. They didn't expect the leader would simply let Kakashi and Jiraiya go. They didn't believe that their leader had no means to stop Kakashi. What's more, if he was bent on keeping Jiraiya and a move to stop them, could Jiraiya still be able to walk? The leader was no longer calm as water. Rather, he was deep like the sea. Could it be that the leader really believed that killing people cannot solve a dispute? The Akatsuki crowd quickly shook their heads. Akatsuki, as the biggest warmonger in the shinobi world, would the leader of their organization, who was obviously super strong, convince people with virtue? Wouldn't that be a joke? While the Akatsuki members were cursing in their hearts, Might Guy was sizing everyone up. You're Akatsuki. Guy felt that the present situation was somewhat similar to that of decades ago. At that time, his own father was facing the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, and now he was facing the even more terrifying Akatsuki. Therefore, Might Guy was ready to go all out. Now, it's my turn to be the green beast. Guy's body suddenly burst with a green light. This was the appearance of chakra burning, also a symptom of the opening of the 3rd gate of the 8 gates. The 7th gate of Wonder Might Guy was condensing momentum, ready to jump straight to opening the 7th gate, when suddenly Nagato spoke a word, which stunned him. Wait a minute, Might Guy. You're trained in the 8 gates. Might Guy was stunned. How did Nagato know this? The chakra in his body that had approached the gate of Wonder Point abruptly and slowly faded away. Yes. How do you know that name? Guy stared right at Nagato and suddenly noticed a crow falling on Nagato's shoulder. The crow slowly turned around, and blood-red windmill eyes suddenly caught Might Guy's eye. Sharingan. Illusion technique. Damn it. Guy was shocked. The chakra that had been retreating was about to condense and break open the Gate of Wonder, when he suddenly found the ground beneath him shattering, taking him with it into the sky. At the same time, 2 voices sounded. Chibaku Tensei. Chibaku Tensei. Nagato, together with Diva Path, used Chibaku Tensei. The Akatsuki members took out their fastest speed to run and create distance. After turning around, they looked at their leader in horror. They didn't expect that the first place in the binding list, the Chibaku Tensei, was actually held by their leader. What's more, they didn't expect the leader, who was so powerful, to have no martial ethics. Making a sneak attack with Diva Path was just, but it also interrupted Might Guy's technique outbreak. They understood the devastation in Might Guy's heart. For a while, the Akatsuki crowd looked puzzled. Hashigaki Kisum, in particular, looked at Might Guy, who was sealed in the stone ball and was totally dazed. Fuck. Is this still possible? Directly finish the guy before he gets a chance to condense his chakra. Hashigaki Kisum felt as if he had mastered the new fighting style. He learned how to trick people. Nagato controlled the rubble to be attached to the bind in succession, and felt that the struggle had disappeared. He controlled the 10 meters wide ball to come closer to him. Don't look at the fact that the Chibaku Tensei ball didn't look too big from a distance. Its power far exceeded the one used to seal Uzumaki Naruto. After all, this was Nagato and Diva Path in their prime together. Nagato patted the stone ball, the corners of his mouth smiled again, and looked at the stunned eyes of the crowd. He explained. As you can see, Might Guy is the #1 Taijutsu user in the shinobi world, according to the shinobi world list. Even the 8 gates is the #1 in the Taijutsu list. So why would I want to fight him head-on? He didn't even use 2-hand seals. He directly struck first. abruptly suppressing the other and gaining a person with 2 spots in the list. This envy Hoshigaki Kisame was feeling in his heart right now. It's so cool. It's so awesome. Looking at Might Guy, who couldn't even fight back, was directly sealed. Hoshigaki Kisame only felt relieved. At this moment, in his heart, the fear of being driven to suicide by the Might Guy instantly disappeared into thin air. His own destiny had also been changed. This made Hoshigaki Kisame a little excited. Looking at his leader, Hoshigaki Kisame looked forward to asking, "Leader, is he dead?" "No, not even injured. He was just sealed. I'm going to take him to Konohagakure." Konohagakure. Everyone in Akatsuki was surprised again. They didn't expect the leader to move so fast. "Are you going to kill Uzumaki Naruto before he grows up?" Hayden's face showed a malicious smile. He looked at Hoshigaki Kisame and Kakuzu, and then at Uchiha Itachi. "Leader, take me with you. I want to send all those Nara clan people to see Jashin-sama." Hayden smiled grimly and then added, "And that Shikamaru." "No." Nagato shook his head. Now, he increasingly felt that the Akatsuki members' thoughts were too backward. It was almost impossible to compare with him, this academic master, who scored over 90 points in every subject. It seemed that the ideological education of the Akatsuki members must be put on the agenda. Nagato decided in his mind that he would teach them to study when this trip to Konoha was done. "It's not just me, it's everyone in Akatsuki. We are all going to Konohagakure together." Ah. Everyone in Akatsuki was surprised again. They didn't expect Nagato would be so generous this time. Did he realize that one of the reasons for Akatsuki's failure was that he was fighting on his own? At this thought, the members of Akatsuki suddenly began to feel excited. Taking the whole group to Konoha, just thinking about it was exciting. They really wanted to see the expression on the Hokage's face when they appeared together. Before they could imagine the old face of the third Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen, Nagato had spoken again. "Conan, rescreen the candidates for the Chunin exam in Konoha this time, and have all eligible genin from Omegakure take it." Then Nagato looked at others, including Orochimaru. "The rest of you, first sneak into Konoha and look for Uzumaki Naruto and Hyuga Hinata's whereabouts. If you get the chance, bring them out, and remember, don't hurt them." Akatsuki's members looked at Nagato with question marks in their eyes. They didn't understand the meaning of this sentence. Sneak into Konoha, no problem. Investigate the whereabouts of Uzumaki Naruto, no problem. But who the hell is Hyuga Hinata? What's the use of that chick other than being tough and resistant to beatings? And they looked at each other, and all saw the disbelief in each other's eyes. Akatsuki was all set to infiltrate Konoha at the risk of being discovered for the sake of kidnapping a child. All the members of Akatsuki looked at Conan together. They knew that at this time, only Byaku could change the leader's orders. Conan was stunned by Nagato's orders and changes. She looked at Nagato's bright appearance and frowned slightly. She thought that the change in Nagato was definitely related to the exclusive reward from the exam space, but she couldn't imagine what kind of reward made Nagato change so much. "What about you, Nagato?" "Me?" When he heard Conan's question, Nagato froze. "Did I express myself so unclearly? I'm taking back the sealed Might Guy to Konoha. What else is there to do? To exchange people. First, negotiate with each other with the usual etiquette. If it doesn't work, then battle. Talk to Konoha with affection, ask Konoha to hand over the little younger brother and future sister-in-law. If that doesn't work, exchange them for Might Guy. If they disagree, the members of Akatsuki should have found a clue of where the two are and bring them out secretly. If that doesn't work, I still have other ways. I have other things to do." Ladies and gentlemen, Akatsuki was founded for the sake of peace in the shinobi world. Now, the true way of peace lies in my hands. I hope that all of us will work together and make contributions towards peace in the shinobi world. Akatsuki looked at their leader speechlessly. Looking at the current leader, they suddenly missed the original Cole Pain a little. Leader is getting more and more Chinipyo. Tadara shook his head and turned to leave. He was in pain, and sneaking into Konoha, not a direct attack, required a lot of preparation. The other Akatsuki members also left, and soon, only Nagato and Pains, who had burning gazes, were left in place. Education, we should start with children. 2 days later, 2 figures, one big and one small, stepped into Omegakure. They made no other move. Just stepping into the Omegakure and letting the rain pour down on them. They were none other than Mamachi Zabuza and Haku, who came from somewhere else. Mamachi Zabuza squinted at Omegakure. When he saw that the rain that covered the village was a jutsu, he was slightly pleased. He came with a secret method to locate Samihata, and now it seems that he was right. Akatsuki should also be here. Whoosh, whoosh. Just as Mamachi Zabuza looked around, pieces of white paper suddenly floated in front of him, forming a human figure, and finally turning into Conan. "Who are you?" "Byaku." Mamachi Zabuza's husky voice sounded. I am Mamachi Zabuza, an S-rank renegade shinobi from Kurigakure. I want to join Akatsuki. Conan looked at Zabuza. She turned and jumped to the building above the Megakure. Come with me. Through the Rainmaker Jutsu, Nagato discovered Mamachi Zabuza as soon as he entered a Megakure. At this moment, sensing that Conan had brought the other party up, Nagato stopped studying. Not long after, Conan brought Mamachi Zabuza to him. Hearing that Mamachi Zabuza was going to join Akatsuki, Pain's eyes lit up. He didn't expect that conveying Akatsuki's name would have such an advantage. He looked at Mamachi Zabuza expectantly, without seeing him move. The terrifying pressure instantly weighed on Mamachi Zabuza's body. Pain controlled the pressure to increase slowly. When Mamachi Zabuza was about to collapse, the pressure on his body suddenly became lighter. Akatsuki's ring, which had a character on it, floated in front of him. From today onwards, you are Akatsuki's guy. We are committed to achieving peace in the shinobi world. Then Pain told Mamachi Zabuza about the essence of Akatsuki, and the plan to leave for Konoha soon, then asked Mamachi Zabuza to get ready to leave with him tomorrow. This shocked and amazed Mamachi Zabuza at the same time. He didn't understand why this current leader of Akatsuki was different from the one in the exam space, as if he was behaving differently. Conan handed Mamachi Zabuza a red cloud robe, which she had newly made in the past 2 days. Conan was scared by the army of people begging for clothes led by Kakuzu, and supplemented by Ruchmare. These days, she was busy verifying the new genin in Megakure, and occupied coordinating the Akatsuki members' infiltration into Konohagakure. She already had a headache. Glancing at Haku, Conan's eyes lit up. At this time, there were only 2 new genin in Megakure. With this girl, it was just enough to form an additional small team to take the Konoha Chunin exam in 6 months. Time was like the plumpness of a young girl. If not grasped, it would pass by in a flash. 3 days later. In trance of Konohagakure. Sarutobi Hiruzen wore his Hokage hat and Hokage cloak. Behind him was a group of Konoha shinobis. To his left Danzo stood coldly with his arms around his chest. Next to Danzo was Jiraiya, who had just returned yesterday. On the right, there were the 2 Hokage advisors. This was the highest welcome specification Konohagakure could offer right now. Sarutobi Hiruzen puffed his pipe purposefully, thinking about the recent troubles. Yesterday, Jiraiya carried the unconscious Hada Kakashi back to the village. He said that in order to save him, my guy was most likely killed in the line of duty. Hada Kakashi was in a coma because of the serious shortage of chakra, in the process of helping him escape. Sarutobi Hiruzen believed in him. What Hada Kakashi and Might Guy did, how could he not know? He also knew that Jiraiya was saying this because he didn't want him to pester these 2 about leaving the village without permission. However, Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't expect that. Might Guy would stay behind. Although they didn't see Might Guy's body, in that case, even if he was really a number 1 in the exam space's shinobi world list, the probability of Might Guy's death was close to 100%. In other words, a sure death sentence. He knew the 8 gates, so naturally, he knew the cost of opening the 8 gates. Therefore, Sarutobi Hiruzen only hoped that a few more Akatsuki members could be eliminated before Might Guy's death. Sarutobi Hiruzen sighed. Because of the live broadcast, the shinobi world had become a mess right now. No matter where he was, all he could hear was discussions about the live broadcast. In particular, the civilians living in Konoha these days were frantically submitting their applications to leave the village, saying that Konohagakure was too dangerous and they wanted to leave. It was hard to persuade them over and over, just to stabilize them. But then, Jiraiya brought back information on Akatsuki. Uzumaki Nagato had recovered and became even stronger. Just when Sarutobi Hiruzen thought this was sufficient anxiety, the cages of the other 4 shinobi villages surprisingly wanted to visit Konoha together at this time. By the way, there was also a neutral country. Mifune of the Land of Iron was also coming. Sarutobi Hiruzen sighed again in his heart. Of course, he knew what these people were doing here. That was the only good thing that's come out of the recent period. However, to his displeasure, the meeting was held in Konohagakure. In the past, the 5-cage talks wouldn't be held in one of the 5 major shinobi villages, to ensure security and unnecessary trouble. They would choose a neutral country or shinobi village for talks. While Sarutobi Hiruzen was thinking, yellow sand suddenly swept in front of the crowd in front of Konoha. The sand dispersed, revealing several figures. Rasa, Chio, Maki, Tamari, and several other Sunish shinobis. Sarutobi Hiruzen was just about to say something when 3 figures covered with lightning came whistling by. Arriving in front of Konoha, the 4th Raikage A dissipated the chakra armor, and dropped Killer B and Dari. Where's Konoha's noble green beast, Might Guy? A's loud voice directly shouted out, making the faces of some people in Konohagakure, who knew about what happened, look ugly. Sarutobi Hiruzen took a deep breath and pressed down his anger. His voice was somewhat disappointed. 2 days ago, Jonin Might Guy was killed in the line of duty. What does the 4th Reikage have to say? Dead. A was stunned. Then, after sweeping his eyes at Jiraiya, his face was incomparably ugly. As if he thought of something, he shrugged his shoulders. He came here mainly to ask Konoha for information, and beating Might Guy was just an interlude. Now that Might Guy was dead, how could he compete for titles with a dead man? Gentlemen, sorry, I'm late. While speaking, Mifune, from the Land of Iron, came running from a distance with a group of people. A nodded his head, glanced sharply at the people brought by Mifune, and found that they were all senior samurais. They waited for a while, and Terumi Mei walked up slowly with a group of people. After waiting for a while, Inoki appeared. At this point, the cages of the 5 shinobi villages and Mifune of the Land of Iron gathered for the first time. Gentlemen, I came to Konoha this time. Besides sharing information on Akatsuki, I want a spot for a Wagakure in Konoha's Chunin exam. Just as they sat down, Inoki directly spoke. He didn't bother to beat around the bush with these juniors, directly explaining his purpose in coming. Exam quota. Sarutobi Hiruzen paused. He didn't expect a Wagakure to come up with such an idea. Originally, Konoha's Chunin exam was to be held 6 months later. After all, Uzumaki Naruto's class of students wouldn't take the graduation test until 2 days later. His target is Naruto. Jiraiya immediately thought Inoki had such an idea. Speaking of Uzumaki Naruto, Jiraiya hadn't had time to see the child since he returned to the village. The original plan for Konoha's Chunin exam didn't include a Wagakure. Sarutobi Hiruzen tapped the stem of his pipe slowly and methodically, then looked at the other 3 cages. Is that what you all have come for? Sarutobi Hiruzen was delighted to see the 3 people thinking at the same time. Just as he was about to feign refusal, he heard Inoki's sorrowful voice ring out. Sarutobi Hiruzen, don't be too quick to refuse. If you were Akatsuki and knew that Konoha would stop you in the future, which village would you be attacking first? You. Sarutobi Hiruzen's face suddenly showed an angry expression. When he was about to hit the table, he heard Inoki continue. Your Konoha is now the first shinobi village to be potentially attacked by Akatsuki, and even now, members of Akatsuki are already lurking in your Konohagakure. That's impossible. Sarutobi Hiruzen continued to put on an angry face. What Inoki had thought of, he had naturally thought of long ago, and now he was merely retreating to advance. With Jiraiya around, Konoha had the advantage of the information, and it was easy to set a trap for these guys. As for Akatsuki's infiltration into Konohagakure, it was impossible. Now, Konoha's Root and Anbu were monitoring the entire Konohagakure, and any suspicious person would be checked out. Akatsuki couldn't hide inside here at all. Akatsuki aims to capture the tailed beasts, and we all have Jinchuriki in our villages, so we are all their targets. Akatsuki's strength is not something that one of our shinobi villages can fight against on its own, so we must unite. In our current situation, we certainly can't form an allied force. After all, we can't just rely on a live broadcast to trust each other. However, we can start an offensive and defensive alliance against Akatsuki. Share all the information on Akatsuki. When an Akatsuki member is found, or one of our shinobi villages is found to be an Akatsuki target, the other villages must send someone to help. I agree. A's eyes flashed. This plan seemed to be fair to all 5 villages, but it was actually a kind of fishing in troubled waters for Konoha. He loved to take advantage of the situation. Rasa glanced at Sarutobi Hiruzen and said nothing. His son Agakure was once defeated, which almost made them a vassal state to Konoha. Suno originally had a quota in this Chunin exam, and he was trying to destroy Konoha together with Orochimaru through this Chunin exam. But he didn't expect such a thing to happen. We are simply making an offensive and defensive alliance against Akatsuki. Rasa's gaze fluctuated for a moment as if to emphasize and support the opinion. They took the bait. Sarutobi Hiruzen smiled coldly in his heart. A feeling of intellectual superiority came over him. Inoki was right, Akatsuki's first target would definitely be Konoha. Therefore, bringing all the villages into the water together was Sarutobi Hiruzen's strategy. Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes fluctuated. The first goal was achieved. Now, it was time for the second goal. The battle has begun, and the children cannot be allowed to continue to rest on their laurels. I'm going to advance Konoha's Chunin exam in 5 days. In addition, to show our sincerity this time, all genins in your shinobi villages and students from Ninja School who graduated this year can take part in the exam. Sarutobi Hiruzen's words suddenly surprised the others, and then they were overjoyed and rushed to agree. They had such a plan, but they didn't expect Sarutobi Hiruzen would propose it himself. Immediately afterward, the 5 people regulated and elaborated on the above 2 points. On the other hand, Mifune pestered Jiraiya, who was looking for Naruto, and asked him about Sage Mode. A day later, all of Konoha Ninja School's current graduating class graduated early and were informed that they would be divided into separate classes and directly follow the other genins to take the Chunin exam in 4 days. Shinobi Hiruzen's big move immediately attracted the attention of those who cared. That night, a pure white snake climbed out of Konohagakure, arrived outside Konoha, and climbed into the hands of a village girl. After circling in the hands of the village girl, the snake spat out a note and then disappeared. When she opened the note, she read, Orochimaru-sama, Konoha's Chunin exam will start early in 4 days. Arasa sent Maki to contact me, ready to continue pushing the Konoha's annihilation plan. Sunu will be responsible for creating chaos. At that time, you and he will jointly kill Shinobi Hiruzen. After that, the other shinobi villages will not give up this opportunity to strike, and Konoha will definitely be seriously damaged. In addition, I was recently targeted and unable to pry into Uzumaki Naruto's whereabouts, surrounded by a team of Anbu and rooters taking turns watching every day. I suspect they think I am the Kabuto mentioned in the exam space. In Konohagakure, Akatsuki's undead duo transformed into an elderly couple walking along the streets of Konoha. They were the first team to infiltrate Konoha, and for that reason, the two of them moved quite a bit. Hey, what is the leader's problem? All of us at Akatsuki could have just gotten Konoha out of the way. Why go to all this trouble? Listening to Haiden's complaints, Kakuzu, who took the form of an old woman, glanced at Haiden coldly. As the most frequent teammate changer in Akatsuki, Haiden was the longest teammate who followed Kakuzu. Not because he was immortal, but because his heart was useless to Kakuzu. His head didn't have a bounty on it either. That was all. That's something you can say to the leader. Haiden sniffed, looked at Kakuzu speechlessly, and cried out. Have you noticed that there are more ninjas from other villages? Isn't it because of the impromptu earliness of Konoha's Chunin exams? I heard that in this batch, many students graduated early. Haiden touched his flabby face and looked over to a dirty little girl on the side of the road, who he felt as if she had been looking at him. When there are more people, there will be chaos. Now, most shinobi in Konoha are maintaining law and order, which is also beneficial to our actions. Kakuzu nodded his head. He had found several bounty hunters among the shinobis from these villages. These people came to Konoha. It seems that we should speed up. The leader and new members are already on their way. If we can't find Uzumaki Naruto and Hyuga Hinata before the leader comes, let me see. Haiden didn't wait for Kakuzu to finish his sentence before walking towards the little girl across the street with his black pretentious walking stick. Haiden learned when he came here that Uzumaki Naruto was now about the same age as this girl. Instead of looking aimlessly, it was better to ask the child of the same age as Naruto. Hello, little girl. Haiden bowed, greeted the young girl. He was just about to continue to get close when he suddenly noticed the young girl was staring at him with a burning look. That look, including 3 points of surprise and 7 points of joy, made Haiden feel his face nervously. What's wrong with my face? The little girl looked around at other people in the street, saw that no one was paying attention to them, motioned for Haiden to squat down, and then whispered in Haiden's ear. Believe in Jashin and gain eternal life. An apostle of Jashin. Haiden's eyes suddenly widened. His body stepped back and looked at the little girl in front of him with horror. He had been out of Yugakure for so long and had never met any other Jashinists. He always thought he was the only one in the whole shinobi world, but he didn't expect to meet one in Konoha. Is she also? Without waiting for Haiden's inquiry, the girl directly pulled Haiden and ran to one side. Haiden gave Kakuzu a look and let her take him by the hand. The girl took Haiden and ran for a while, then arrived at a dilapidated house. She sat Haiden down excitedly, poured Haiden a glass of water after panting. Then squatting in front of Haiden, with her hands on her face, she happily looked at Haiden. Hey, you are the Jashinist Haiden-sama, right? PFFF. Haiden almost spewed out a mouthful of water. His getup wasn't just a transformation, but also Kakuzu's earth grudge and some other stuff. Konoha's shinobis didn't recognize him. How did a child recognize it? Haiden had long confirmed that this little girl was just an ordinary girl with no chakra in her body. Otherwise, she wouldn't be reduced to the lower levels of Konoha. Where were your parents? Looking at the dilapidated house, Haiden frowned. The house looked like it hadn't been lived in for a long time, and he didn't understand why the girl would want to live here. He wasn't sympathetic and felt sorry for the little girl. He simply wanted to know if the girl's parents were also faithful followers of Jashin-sama. They were burned to death by the village. I took advantage of the disorder to escape to Konoha. The little girl's face was calm without a trace of sadness. No outsiders are allowed to enter Konoha. I came along with the caravan doing business with Konoha, and I was left behind in Konoha because I was too much trouble for the caravan. How did you know that I'm hiding? I've seen you before. The little girl sat justifiably, and each dirty face was full of joy. A few days ago, she saw Haiden on the live broadcast, and knew that the other party also believed in Jashinism. Therefore, Haiden gave her a sense of long-lost affinity. Unexpectedly, there are people who believe in Jashin-sama. I thought that after my father and mother died, I was the only one. With that, she looked at Haiden expectantly. Haiden-sama, may I join you in conveying the teachings of Jashinism? You can't. He has other things to do. Kakuzu appeared inside the house at some point, listened to the little girl's inquiry, and directly helped Haiden refuse. Haiden was somewhat conflicted at the moment. On the one hand, he wanted to help the little girl follow the teachings of Jashinism. On the other hand, he had to complete the task from the leader. You came to Konoha for a purpose, right? The little girl wasn't discouraged. In her past, she had been rejected many times, and had long known that she must be worthy of someone else's help. If I can help you accomplish your purpose, Haiden-sama, will you take me with you? Haiden's eyes lit up at the words. He knew that after completing this task, Akatsuki would certainly have a period of calm, and he could take advantage of this time to find other Jashin believers with her. Do you know Uzumaki Naruto and Hyuga Hinata? Haiden spoke with some eagerness. He couldn't wait to bring them both to the leader now, and then he would go with the little girl to find Jashin's congregation. You're talking about him, the girl suddenly realized. If it were anyone else, she really wouldn't have known, but Uzumaki Naruto was now a popular figure in Konohagakure. He's been in and out of the Hyuga residence a lot lately. I've heard people say that he's going to be the Hyuga clan's son-in-law. I don't know if that's true or not. However, I know that he now eats ramen without paying for it, because I've seen it with my own eyes. Many shops warmly invited him to eat. They even hung up a sign that says Naruto doesn't need to pay, saying that it was for Naruto to take care of them in the future, but Naruto only eats ramen. Come on, and I'll take you to find him. After saying that, the girl took Haiden and went out again. Kakuzu saw the two leave and leaped gently to the top of the eaves. There, a kunai was pressed against a stack of explosive tags, with a note next to it. There was only one sentence in the note, and the time marked happened to be today. Uzumaki Naruto will take this Chunin exam, creating chaos and opportunities. Kakuzu was surprised. No wonder he saw so many bounty hunters and signs on the road. It turned out that their target was Uzumaki Naruto. Kakuzu put the note back, glanced at the explosive tags, jumped down, and chased after Haiden and the girl. In a megakure. Konan looked at the 24 Junins in front of her, waved her hand, and marched toward Konoha. Originally, for Konoha's Chunin exam, 6 months later, a megakure planned to send 7 teams, a total of 21 people. Among them, Konan's favorite team was the team composed of Oboro, Mubi, and Kagari. But now that Nagato had asked for all the shinobis who meet the requirements to participate, Konan turned a megakure upside down, and managed to find 2 newly promoted genins. It so happened that Mamachi Zabuza arrived with Haku. Otherwise, Konan didn't know where to find a genin to make a team for them. Speaking of Haku, Konan was very surprised. He was a boy with beautiful eyes. More importantly, he also had ice release, a rare bloodline limit. Because of this, Konan paid a little more attention to the team he was in. With this attention, Konan discovered something very interesting. Nah, Uzumaki Naruto is eating ramen inside. I also want to eat some ramen. No money. You're a bad man, I don't like you. Kana puffed up and looked at Kakuzu. She brought him here, and he wouldn't even invite her to eat one bowl of ramen. Kana looked at Uzumaki Naruto, who was devouring his food in the ramen store, with deep envy in her eyes. Eating ramen, free of charge, he must be very happy. Haiden saw the little girl pouting. Stretching out his hand, he took out a money bag from under Kakuzu's sleeve, and threw it to Kana. Yes, Kana cheered and rushed into Ramen Ichiraku. Boss, 3 bowls of ramen. There are too many people around him, and we can't get exposed. We can't lay hands on him right now. Kakuzu glanced around Ramen Ichiraku and closed his eyes slowly, as if a tired old lady was closing her eyes. After Kakuzu finished speaking, he suddenly found Kana walking out with a bowl of ramen. Looking at Kakuzu, she tilted her little head and handed the noodles to Haiden. Haiden froze, looked at Kakuzu, smiled warmly, and took the ramen. Kana threw the money back to Kakuzu and skipped her way back. Jealous, right? Hahaha. Haiden blew a few breaths in Kakuzu's direction, looked at Kakuzu's ugly face, laughed, and took a big bite. Kakuzu got up and was about to leave when he found Kana holding a bowl in front of him. Hey, big bad guy, this is for you. Kakuzu froze, his pair of eyes narrowed. He did not expect that this small girl had even bought a bowl for him. Watching Kana run back again, Kakuzu suddenly spoke up. This little thing of yours, it's quite interesting. That's right. Boss, do it. I've watched the surroundings. That kid is alone. Not far away from the undead duo, a dozen wandering shinobis stared at Ramen Ichiraku. They weren't professional bounty hunters. However, the price offered by the underground bounty house was too high, so high that even if they knew that Konoha was at the deep end of the pool, they still snuck into it. Wait a minute. The person who was called the boss squeezed his somewhat damp palm, and his heart was incomparably nervous. Although this wasn't the first time he had done such a thing, it was the first time he looked for trouble in a major shinobi village. At the same time, on the other side, several figures were looking at this group of wandering shinobis, and the presence of the head of the group snorted coldly. I never thought that these damn guys would dare to steal business from us. Wait a minute, let them do it first. Let them attract Konoha's attention, and then we'll make our move. Haha, the boss is wise. Meanwhile, in the Hokage's office. Hokage-sama, the Kazuki is looking for you. Rasa is looking for me. Sarutobi hears and was stunned. At this time, all the candidates taking the Chunin exam had arrived in Konoha, and the cages of the other shinobi villages should all be resting in their exclusive places. What does he want from me? He said that he knew something about Orochimaru and wanted to consult with you. Orochimaru. Sarutobi hears and once again wondered how Orochimaru had anything to do with Rasa. Let him come in. At the Uchiha clan's area, a figure in a black robe stood there quietly. In front of him was the ancestral monument of the Uchiha clan. Uchiha Itachi looked at it for a long time, and finally concluded that the tablet had been tampered with. Uchiha Itachi instantly had a murderous look. As expected, behind the Uchiha riots, it wasn't just the Uchiha clan who encouraged his father to rebel. There was another conspiracy behind this. Do it. Aji-san. You lead the men to create chaos and attract the attention of the others. Ashai Indigo, you come with me. Seeing that Uzumaki Naruto was leaving after eating some ramen, the leader of the wandering shinobis gave a direct order. A dozen figures scurried out together, kunai explosive talismans in their hands shot indiscriminately, and suddenly a series of explosions appeared on the streets of Konohagakure. Boom. Boom. The sound of explosions continued. Anbu and Root, who were scattered all over Konoha, moved simultaneously and rushed towards where the explosion took place. Looking at the explosion not far away, Kakuzu and Haiden frowned at the same time. They didn't expect someone to launch an attack at this time. Isn't it just stupid? Kakuzu squinted at the figure rushing towards Ramen Ichiraku and frowned. Such a crit attack couldn't be from his own colleague. Then, Kakuzu saw several figures behind these people, and suddenly his heart fell. Be careful. Uzumaki Naruto heard the explosion, looked at Kana, who was walking out the door with a bowl of ramen, and directly threw her down. A shattered log with fire shot from the side of the two and plunged into the opposite wall. Uzumaki Naruto got up, picked up Kana, and ran. Opposite the two, watching Kana being taken away by Uzumaki Naruto, Kakuzu and Haiden looked at each other and quietly followed after them. When the wandering shinobi saw Uzumaki Naruto flee and was just about to give the order, a brilliant glint of a blade appeared. In the next moment, he was already on the ground. Immediately afterward, countless slashes lit up, and all the wandering shinobis were eliminated before they had time to react. Confirmed, all dead. Confirmed, all dead. Kakashi, wearing a cat-faced mask, listened to his subordinate's report and pulled his own knife out of the bounty hunter leader's chest, with an expressionless face. These guys, who thought they were well disguised, didn't know that both the wandering shinobis and the bounty hunters were exposed as early as the first moment they entered Konoha. The reason why they were allowed to live until today was because of the orders from the third Hokage to make an example out of them. Naruto. The routine is following him. Can it be solved quietly? Haiden looked at the figure with the mask jumping on the roof in front of him, with a thoughtful look in his eyes. We can't. Kakuzu shook his head. The other three squads were all elite shinobis of Konoha. It wasn't difficult to kill them, but it wasn't something they could do quietly. Something's going on. Kakuzu was stunned and saw the masked figures jumping from above, enclosing Naruto and Kana in the middle. Naruto had just shielded Kana behind him, and before he could finish, a hand slash struck him on the back of the neck. Naruto's eyes went dark, and he directly passed out. Carrying Naruto on his shoulder, the man glanced at Kana. Crack. A pair of hands suddenly reached out from the back of Kana's neck, covering her head with one hand and holding her chin with the other, and gently twisted it. Kana suddenly lost her life. Everything happened in a flash. Before Haiden and Kakuzu could even react, Kana had already been killed by Konoha's root. Looking at Kana slowly falling down, Haiden paused. Then instantly flew into a rage. He didn't understand why the Anbu of Konoha would kill her. Just because she saw Uzumaki Naruto being abducted. It turned out, Konoha was no different from those bounty hunters. Not even as puritanical as a bounty hunter. Dared to harm Jashin-sama's follower. You. All of you have to die. Haiden's voice sounded like the wail of evil spears. He slowly pulled out his retractable spear and gave it a gentle tug. Haiden, calm down. Kakuzu stretched out his hand and grabbed Haiden's shoulder, trying to stop Haiden, only to find that Haiden's rickety-looking body was already standing tall, and somehow the red cloud robe had already appeared on him. My people were killed. You're telling me to calm down. Now, I finally know why there are so few followers of Jashinism. If the wicked are not removed, it's difficult for believers to survive. Haiden looked at Konoha's Anbu not far away, got up slowly, and walked towards them. The tip of the black retractable spear swept against the ground, making a harsh sound. Kakuzu, what is your fate? Money. Sure enough, you're a bad man. Haiden stopped and looked back at Kakuzu. In the past, I only knew to preach. Now, I know that punishing evil is more important. Wait for the leader to collect our bodies. Seeing Haiden's self-exposure, Kakuzu shrugged indifferently, and his body also went back to his original form. I must be insane, going crazy like this with you. He knew that the cages of the 5 major shinobi villages were now in Konohagakure. Akatsuki. It's Akatsuki's Kakuzu and Haiden. The two showed up and were about to snatch Uzumaki Naruto from the root members. Quick, tell Danzo-sama, quickly. Akatsuki's undead duo have invaded Konoha. What happened? Akatsuki organization. Akatsuki is coming, Akatsuki is invading. What? So, should we move? Konoha is too dangerous too. I blame you. Saying Konoha is safe and tricking us into coming here. Me, stop blaming me. Who would have thought the Konoha, which was obviously super strong, would also be overly destructive? In the house, a couple of civilians shivered and took shelter. From time to time, a burst of running footsteps sounded on their roof. That was Konoha's shinobis, assembling rapidly. What about Rasa? The third Tsuchikage, Inoki, solemnly floated in midair. Behind him was a group of skilled shinobis from Iwagakure. What a good scheme, Sarutobi Hiruzen. Inoki's mind was blazing. He didn't see Sarutobi Hiruzen set up until this moment. A good scheme. Now it seemed that the reason why Sarutobi Hiruzen had advanced Konoha's Chunin exam, on the one hand, as he said, was to train the new strength of the shinobi village, and not let them get too comfortable. After all, at their current age, the battlefield was at least a little over 10 years ago. On the other hand, this was Sarutobi Hiruzen's baiting plan. He knew that Akatsuki was most likely to attack Konohagakure first, so he wanted to draw Akatsuki out through the Chunin exam, while 5 shinobi villages were gathered. Unexpectedly, Akatsuki really took the bait. Inoki grunted coldly, ready to fight Akatsuki off, then find Sarutobi Hiruzen to cause trouble. How dare you treat me as a tool? Kazuki Ijsama ordered us to help Konoha fight first. He will arrive later. Maki heard Inoki's follow-up question and spoke without humbleness. Now, Suna and Odo were ready to attack, just waiting for the Kazuki to succeed. With Konoha without a leader in Akatsuki and other shinobi villages working together, Konoha would be destroyed in one fell swoop. It's just... A trace of worry flashed in Maki's heart. At this time, did Kazuki Ijsama make the right choice? You all deserve to die. Haiden ran between the members of Konoha's root, one by one. The retractable spear in his hand penetrated the head of a shinobi, and the mask on the person's face shattered open. Without looking, Haiden charged straight for the others. Haiden's heart was full of anger. He finally found a Jashiness, but Konoha killed her. He wanted to kill them all. He ignored the opponent's sharp blade thrusting at him, allowing it to strike his black as iron red cloud robe, emitting a dang-dang sound. The next moment, Haiden swept the retractable spear in his hand, and the guy directly died. Fire release. Searing migraine. Kakuzu instantly arrived and sliced the shinobi's neck. Then, he controlled his earth grudge to Pelginger to spit out a fire release, killing a shinobi who was about to attack Haiden from behind. Haiden, it's time to go. Kakuzu had no religion and wasn't a believer. He couldn't appreciate Haiden's anger at the moment. He didn't even understand what Haiden was so mad about. Isn't it just a woman? What for? Lightning release. Double lariat. A hoarse low roar sounded, making Kakuzu pale. That jutsu. There was no mistaking it. It could only be that person. The Reikage. Kakuzu looked in the direction of the voice. His intermediate armament haki was opened, and his whole person instantly looked dark. At the next moment, a figure with lightning release chakra gathered all over his body rapidly rushed in. The thunder roared, and after only 1/10 of a breath, the other person had already rushed to Kakuzu. His elbow was raised, directly hitting Kakuzu's face. Boom. Kakuzu didn't have any chance to react at all, and was directly prevented from falling over. Behind him, a broken mask fell out of Kakuzu's red robe, and Kakuzu's body shook, standing there as if nothing was wrong. Kakuzu looked pale and looked at the broken mask at his feet. He didn't expect to defend himself with armament haki, but was still killed by a blow. This is horrible. Was the fourth Reikage that powerful? Kakuzu's eyes rolled and absorbed the fire attributed to Pelginger behind him into his body, and only after doing so did he feel a little more at ease. At the same time, the fourth Reikage had appeared in front of Haiden and jumped gently above Haiden's head. Lighting chakra converged on his feet, splitting fiercely from top to bottom. Guillotine drop. Bang. At this moment, Haiden's whole body also became pitch black. His hand was holding the retractable spear to block the fourth Reikage's foot. The retractable spear was also covered by Haiden with the armament haki. Otherwise, it will be kicked to pieces by this Reikage. Crack crack crack. The sounds from the retractable spear make Haiden's expression change. Looking at the cracking retractable spear, Haiden looked angry. The retractable spear suddenly shattered. Haiden advanced, ignoring Reikage's slamming fist. The tip of the broken spear stabbed the fourth Reikage in the eye. Haiden's mouth opened, ready to catch the blood spurting out directly with his mouth. Then he would use the curse to kill the fourth Reikage instantly. Elbow bolt. Looking at Haiden's attack, A didn't dodge. He gathered chakra in his elbow and slammed it towards Haiden's chest. The punch, which was obviously thrown afterward, landed directly on Haiden's body. Haiden's armament haki was directly smashed, and the tremendous force directly threw him back. TSK, 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 if it isn't Haiden and Kakuzu. Why are they so miserable? Idara's cheeky voice came from behind Haiden, and in the next moment, Haiden felt a pair of palms against his back, trying to counteract the force on him. And then Haiden felt the person behind him flying backward while carrying him shit. Why are you so aggressive, Sasori? Sasori, help me quickly. Boom. At Haiden's scream, a puppet appeared from nowhere behind the two, directly stopping them. That Didara kid. Inoki drifted away, looking at Didara and Haiden, who fell to the ground. His face changed slightly. It seemed that Akatsuki sent more than just Haiden and Kakuzu this time. Inoki looked at the chakra line linking to the puppet. His expression changed. He looked up, and his face instantly shifted dramatically. When everyone saw Inoki's demeanor and looked up, they suddenly paled and acted even worse than Inoki. How is this possible? Above the crowd, a handsome boy wearing a red robe and orange hair quietly floated in the sky. If a few of them came, then so be it. But he was surrounded by hundreds of puppets wearing red robes. These puppets were filled with all kinds of weapons, and chakra lines were connected to the central person's body, filled with the aura of depression. Performance of 100 puppets. It's Sasori. Chiyo slowly emerged from the crowd. She just heard Inoki's cry. Because she didn't know where Rasa had gone and was worried that soon as Maki wasn't enough for this occasion, she came out. Unexpectedly, she saw Sasori. The only way to break performance of 100 puppets, besides killing the manipulator, is to cut the other party's connection to the puppets in the first place. As soon as Chiyo's words were spoken, Terumi Maid blatantly attacked. Her bloodline limit, love release, could cover all the puppets in a wide range. Moreover, her melting apparition technique was very corrosive, which could disconnect the chakra line. Love release. Melting apparition technique. Terumi Maid took a large breath and spat out a large amount of acid from her mouth in the next moment, directly coating the puppets in the sky. Woo. A figure in a red cloud robe flashed from the many puppets, looked at the incoming acid, opened his mouth, and ejected a large amount of water, enough to form a lake. Water release. Water colliding wave. The attacker was none other than Hoshigaki Kisame, who had been hiding among the puppets to protect Sasori's puppets. Ha 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 ha. Shinobis, are you amazed? I can fly. Idara laughed out loud. His feet moved, and his body suddenly rose from the ground, as if stepping on an invisible ladder, and ran up in a fluid motion. Seeing this, Haiden and Kakuzu, not caring about their wounds, initiated skywalk and went straight up into the air. Below, Konoha and the countless shinobis from the 5 major shinobi villages looked pale as they looked up at the terrifying scene above. 5 Akatsuki members wearing red robes were surrounded by hundreds of red-robed puppets, as if 5 demon lords were floating above Konohagakure, with a group of evil spirits, ready to bind their souls. Suddenly, everyone looked to the other side of the sky, where several figures were whizzing by. They walked in the air at a strange pace, and the figure at the end was carrying a man on his back. That's not all. The figure in front of these people, with one hand in the sky, controlling a 10-meter wide black ball in his hand, approached. They were so fast that they arrived on top of the crowd in the blink of an eye. After seeing their faces, everyone felt as if they were plunged into an ice cave. Seeing their cold eyes, some people had started to go weak in the legs and fell to the ground in fear. Some even pissed themselves. Who is it? Who is bullying my Akatsuki members? Meanwhile, in Konoha's Hokage's office, Sarutobi hears and looked at the mysterious Rasa with a calm face. Rasa, the Kazukiage, wasn't strong enough, and his wisdom couldn't fix the situation. He couldn't see the bigger picture, let alone making Sarutobi Hiruzen, Inoki, and Terumime stop looking down on him. After all, under his management, Sunagakur gradually became the weakest of the 5 shinobi villages in the shinobi world. Just like Kurigakur, under the reign of the 4th Mizukage. What's more, he was almost overtaken by Terumime. Suna was weak, which was why Sunagakur was attached to Konohagakure to a certain extent. Of course, the main reason was their failure in the 3rd Shinobi World War. Magnet release. Golden prison. Ross's hands quickly made seals, and then his hands slammed together. A large amount of golden sand spilled out from under him. The golden sand rapidly spread out, and the Hokage's office was completely filled and sealed in an instant. Inside the gold prison, Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at Rasa with a grim face. The pipe in his mouth fell to the table. Because Akatsuki appeared, Sarutobi Hiruzen was afraid that something would change, so he deployed the Konoha secret guards around him to check the situation. Now, the staff in Hokage's office could only fight by themselves. Ross's technique surrounded the interior of Hokage's office with gold sand. No one could see anything from the outside, and no sound could be transmitted outside. The clerical staff below wouldn't even know what was going on up there. Rasa, what are you doing? Are you going to start a war between Suna and Konoha? War. Rasa looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen with scorn as if he had heard a funny joke. He stared at Sarutobi Hiruzen and took out a small white snake from his pocket. Snake. Sarutobi Hiruzen froze. Then, he felt the somewhat familiar chakra from the snake and felt startled. A flame jutsu erupted from his mouth and shot towards the white snake. Orochimaru. Fire release. Great fireball technique. Just when the white snake was about to be struck by the blast, the little snake's big mouth stretched and spat out a bigger snake. Then, like a reverse nesting doll, each snake got bigger and bigger. In the end, the snake directly spat out a soggy man from its mouth. Orochimaru. He was wearing Akatsuki's robe, covered with mucus. When he saw the fireball, he flicked his wrist, and a slender sword appeared in his hand. The hand holding the sword shook gently, and in the humming sound of the Kusanagi sword, the sword turned pitch black. Heh. At the sound of Orochimaru's soft snort, Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at Orochimaru incredulously. After all these years, has his sword skill become as strong as this? In the shinobi world, jutsu confrontation was normal, but cutting through jutsu with a weapon was next to impossible. Because cutting jutsu required not only nature transformation, chakra, and combat skills, but also other more difficult things. Except for Konoha's White Fang and Mifune, Sarutobi Hiruzen hadn't heard of anyone who had this ability in recent years. He even had a Kakashi's Chidori that could cut through some jutsu, but that was only jutsu, not his father's blade. No, it's not Orochimaru, it's that black armament haki. After thinking everything over, Sarutobi Hiruzen paused. Jiraiya never gave him information that armament haki would have a restraining effect on jutsu. Could it be Orochimaru's own improved armament haki? Orochimaru looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen and didn't explain. He took out a scroll and patted it gently. 2 coffins with 1 and 2 written on them suddenly appeared in the sand prison. Ross's golden sand prison was very strange. It isolated sound and prevented the opponent from performing summoning techniques, so Orochimaru purposefully prepared this. Magnet release. Gold dust imperial funeral. Rasa raised the golden sand all over the sky and attacked Sarutobi Hiruzen. Because of the tight space, he couldn't exert all of his strength. After all, Gold Dust's Imperial Funeral was a move that didn't distinguish between friend or foe. Sarutobi Hiruzen leaped up high and attached chakra to his hands, attaching himself to the ceiling, thus avoiding Rasa's attack. While they were fighting, Orochimaru's neck suddenly stretched out strangely and bit Sarutobi Hiruzen. Sarutobi Hiruzen couldn't escape, Orochimaru had bit his foot. Haha, Sarutobi Hiruzen, today is the day you'll die. Rasa sneered. His hands clapped on the yellow sand on the ground. The golden sand spike emerged in midair and aimed at Sarutobi Hiruzen. Magnet release. Gold Dust World Method. A thin bamboo shoot like golden sand spike shot flew towards Sarutobi Hiruzen. Sarutobi Hiruzen raised an earth release to block the flying thorns, and more than a dozen shurikens were thrown toward Rasa. Shuriken Shadow Clone Technique. Under Rasa's shock eyes, more than a dozen shurikens directly turned into hundreds of thousands. The dark shurikens were like rain. The most terrible thing was that the force behind every shuriken was frightening. Rasa rolled up the yellow sand and surrounded himself in it, and countless shurikens stabbed on the golden sand shield. They jabbed in one tip at a time. From the inside, black dense blade tips covered the entire golden sand shield. It was so dense that a normal person would instantly pass out in fear after seeing this. Orochimaru, why aren't you moving? Rasa's angry voice was about to continue to curse, but he suddenly felt something and looked back. But it was too late. Orochimaru's head was hovering ghostly behind him. A shuriken was curled around his tongue, and it stabbed straight into Rasa's heart. Poof, blood instantly erupted. Orochimaru moved his neck and pulled his head back. Orochimaru, you betrayed me. Rasa looked at Orochimaru angrily, pointing one hand at Orochimaru and holding a sand pillar with the other hand as his body shook. He felt his power being rapidly stripped away and felt his vision rapidly blurring. The next moment, with a bang, he directly fell to the ground. Only then did Orochimaru's sinister voice ring out. Some people can only be killed by me. Oh, it's ironic that the untrustworthy end up dying at the hands of the even more untrustworthy, Rasa. Sarutobi Hiruzen sarcastically looked at the dead Rasa, and then looked at Orochimaru. Since the other party had turned against them at this time, he must have left the Konoha village completely. Fortunately, after Rasa's death, the summoning technique could be used. Summoning technique. Enma. Watching his sensei's movements, the corner of Orochimaru's mouth grinned. Sarutobi was unable to distinguish whether it was a smile or grief. Sensei, do you like the funeral I prepared for you? Orochimaru stretched out his hand and knocked on the two coffins. Two figures walked out of them. Looking at the two figures, Sarutobi Hiruzen instantly sucked in a cold breath. He didn't expect that Orochimaru not only desecrated the dead, but he actually desecrated the two first cages of Konoha. Orochimaru, you deserve to die. Sarutobi Hiruzen instantly became furious. He thought of the army of the dead in the future Fourth Shinobi World War, and his eyes were suddenly filled with killing intent. Originally, he wanted to escape, but now, Orochimaru must die. In the future, he would be more threatening to Konoha than Akatsuki was. At least, Konoha had Naruto to fight against Akatsuki, and Jiraiya also said that when Pain invaded their village, Konoha didn't lose anyone. But Orochimaru was different. As long as I don't let Orochimaru's desecration of the dead technique spread, the Fourth Shinobi World War may just. With this in mind, Sarutobi Hiruzen tightened his grip on the adamantine staff and raised the stick's head, pointing it at Orochimaru. I taught you jutsu, but I didn't teach you to be a man. This is my fault. Orochimaru, it's time to settle this. On the other hand, Sasori saw the leader coming and directly put away all the puppets. Nagato took Pain and Hoshigaki Kisame all the way to the Akatsuki group, glanced at Haiden and Kakuzu, who were in a mess, and looked down quietly. The atmosphere instantly froze. Below, all the shinobi saw the many figures above them, while their faces were stunned. It was silent throughout Konoha. Pin dropped silence. Jiraiya looked at the people above, and his heart sank. He knew everyone from Akatsuki who entered the exam space last time. He was aware that Setsu and Obito had left. In comparison, Jiraiya was shocked to find that Akatsuki was only missing Konan, Orochimaru, and Uchiha Itachi. Could it be that Might Guy killed the three of them before death? But Akatsuki has one new person. Jiraiya stared at Mamachi Zabuza, who was being carried by Naraka Pain, and his thoughts raced. Jiraiya never thought Nagato would be so cruel this time, directly bringing everyone in Akatsuki to kill him. Now, Akatsuki members gathered in Konoha. No. It wasn't just Akatsuki. It should be said that all the skilled combat forces in the shinobi world were gathered in Konoha. If there was a battle, the consequences would be unimaginable. And even if he knew all of Akatsuki's weaknesses, he only told Sarutobi Hiruzen. With Jiraiya's knowledge of Sarutobi Hiruzen, he would certainly not tell the other shinobis from other shinobi villages about this information right now. Therefore, Jiraiya wasn't sure who would win the battle. Sensing that the morale of his side had been affected, the fourth Reikage grunted coldly. Akatsuki, are you trying to go to war with the entire shinobi world? The domineering words of the fourth Reikage slightly eased the morale of the shinobi of the 5 major shinobi villages. But they found that the gaze of the Akatsuki crowd above them wasn't on them at all. Not a single person reacted to A's words. Awkward as hell. Nagato looked at Uzumaki Naruto, who was still unconscious below. His left palm moved slightly, and an invisible attraction arose. The root members below suddenly felt a suction force coming out, and in the next moment, Uzumaki Naruto was already released from his shoulder. Naruto. Jiraiya's complexion suddenly changed. He used his skywalk and directly took off. He chased Uzumaki Naruto and flew towards Nagato. Divapath's figure moved and appeared in front of him like a ghost, blocking Jiraiya's only way. Just when Jiraiya was blocked by Divapath, an unexpected figure suddenly appeared from the crowd. She pulled Naruto, who was about to be scooped up by Nagato, with one hand, and blasted Nagato with one punch. Nagato's right hand was still dragging the stone ball that sealed Might Guy. When he saw Uzumaki Naruto was being taken away, he swung the stone ball and blasted it at the newcomer. Boom. The stone ball made contact with the fist, and in the next moment, the figure's arm was instantly bent into a bizarre shape. The figure was also attacked by a huge force and shot towards the ground with a bang. Tsunade. Jiraiya, who was in the air, was the first person to see that figure clearly. At that moment, he saw Tsunade fall to the ground after being knocked unconscious by Nagato. He immediately pushed Diva Path, who was fighting with him, away and chased after Tsunade with Skywalk. Tsunade was falling, and her hand that was holding Uzumaki Naruto automatically released. Nagato controlled Diva Path to pull him up and hold the boy in his arms. Uzumaki Naruto, capture successful. Diva Path's cold words made the faces of all the shinobis below instantly grin. Sure enough, Akatsuki knew that Uzumaki Naruto would stop them in the future, so they came to capture Naruto. Damn it. Below, each of the shinobi gritted their teeth and looked at the Akatsuki crowd, eager to beat them up to death. If a gaze could hurt someone, the Akatsuki's crowd would have died 100 times over. Where is Hyuga Hinata? Nagato turned a blind eye to the eyes below, and directly asked the Akatsuki members. Still in the Hyuga clan. Hyuga. Pain nodded and looked at Jiraiya, who flew back holding Tsunade. The stone ball that already had cracks because of her was smashed. Chibaku Tensei, release. With a soft puff, the stone ball directly broke apart into countless gravel, and hit the two people. At the moment the stone ball broke, a body wearing green clothing and shining blue suddenly and violently fell. Guy. Jiraiya was overjoyed when he saw the guy wasn't dead. Guy, Naruto is in their hands. We must get Naruto back. Guy, his whole body was sparkling with blue mist, heard Jiraiya's words, turned his head to look at Pain in midair. Suddenly, his pair of eyes were wide open. It's you. Almost as if the words were squeezed out from his teeth, looking at the Akatsuki group, Guy looked indignant, full of anger. He didn't think that one day, he would be fooled by the enemy. 8 Gatka before he could shout out the opening words, he saw Diva Path holding Uzumaki Naruto in one hand, and with the other, his chakra-spewing palm was on top of Uzumaki Naruto's head. If you move, he will die. Guy, stop. Jiraiya hastily spoke out, interrupting Guy's subsequent actions. Guy blinked this scene, he was inexplicably familiar with it. Jiraiya-sama, as long as I open the 8 gates, my speed can exceed the other's sights. I will be able to save Naruto before he kills him. No, we can't gamble with Naruto's life. Jiraiya's face looked grim. He felt the gap between this Nagato and the Nagato he saw in the exam space. More purposeful. More merciless. And on the other hand, more powerful. Jiraiya took a deep breath and handed the unconscious Tsunade to Shizune, who came running in a hurry. Nagato, what are you going to do? I want to achieve peace in the world. You think what you're doing now is bringing peace to the shinobi world? Jiraiya laughed angrily. For the first time, he regretted teaching this guy in the beginning. Perhaps, letting Orochimaru kill him at the beginning was the right choice. Looking at Jiraiya's appearance, Pain suddenly remembered a phrase he had learned that was very appropriate for the current scene. How can a songbird know the ambitions of an eagle? With that, Pain sighed deeply. Until this moment, he deeply felt that the shinobis of the shinobi world were too stubborn. Too foolish. Even if they didn't know how to adapt, the worst thing was that they couldn't accept being corrected and had great ideas. At the moment, the lowliness of being at the top deeply affected him. Uzumaki Nagato was deeply aware of the difficulty of change, the great responsibility, and the seriousness of his mission. However, he must bring peace to the shinobi world. And this was his first step. He needed to start by opening the minds of these foolish people. Today, I will let you know that I'm superior, and I'll also convince people with virtue. Pain smiled coldly and pulled out a golden token in his hand with 2 big gilded letters on it, Makeup Exam. It's the Makeup Exam token. The moment they saw the token, everyone panicked. They didn't understand what Pain was doing by bringing out the makeup token at this time. Shit. Stop him. Narashikaku yelled. Konoha's shinobi heard it and was just about to move. Open the makeup exam space. Makeup candidates. Everyone in Konoha right now. In the next moment, along with the suppressed excitement in Pain's voice, the crowd suddenly found that they had arrived in a pure white space. Makeup exam space is open. The total number of people taking this makeup exam is 62,111. This exam mode. Filling in the blanks. Moderator of this makeup exam. Uzumaki Nagato. This makeup exam has too many members, so we will use the group answer method and start grouping. As the words of the exam space fell, everyone was surprised to find that the people around them had changed. No, not only the people around them had changed, but everything around them had changed, including their own clothes. The 4th Rikage looked down at his own body. He was wearing a purple-colored power suit with the word Thunder on his chest, and nodded with satisfaction. As he saw everything around him, his face suddenly turned dark. The whole space was divided into 7 areas. At that moment, all the shinobis of 7 colors stood on a specific area, like delicate flowers with 7 petals of different colors. Konoha was red, Sunu was yellow, Iwa was brown, Kiri was white, Kuma was purple, samurais of the Land of Iron were black, and Aim was blue. The Reikage didn't have to ask anyone if they came from the land of Iron or Megakure, because the words were largely written on their chests. As long as they weren't stupid, they could recognize it. The fourth Reikage turned gloomy because he saw that his purple Kumagakure had the least number of people. Fuck. If I had known, I would have brought more people. The Reikage felt some regret in his heart. As the saying goes, even if you're stupider than Rasa, don't opt to Dar. If I had known we would be pulled into the exam space on this trip to Konoha, I would have bought all the advisors from Kumagakure. Compared with the Red Sea of people from Konohagakure, which was densely packed with thousands of people, his Kumagakure, which had only 9 people, looked incredibly poor. Shit, why did you assign me to this land of iron? Haydn was filled with a defeated-like expression, and looked at the 100-member team behind him with disgust. This black outfit is ugly as hell. The same was true for Kakuzu beside him, his face looked unhappy. But compared with Haydn's curses, he had already seen the situation in the field. Uchiha Itachi and Orochimaru were assigned to Konoha, wearing red clothes. Tadara was wearing brown clothes at the moment. Sasori was dressed in yellow, and beside him, Chiyo, the old woman, was looking at him with a complex expression. It's divided by identity. Kakuzu looked back and looked at a girl with red hair behind him. Which village are you from? See sir, I come from Kusagakure. It seems like your Yugakure and my Takigakure are just thrown in with the Land of Iron's group as extras. Haida nodded helplessly and was just about to continue talking when a strong voice rang out. Extras? Heh. What a big mouth. Old man, I don't want to bother interacting with you. It's him. It's him. It's him. Kill him. Kill him. Uchiha Sasuke's eyes are scarlet at the moment. His 3 Tomo were slowly turning, staring at the red-clad figure in front of him with a deadly stare. What's going on? Orochimaru, who had one arm strangely drooping, froze. His voice was filled with confusion. Not sure. Uchiha Itachi shook his head. Right now, all his attention was on the guy behind him, staring at his back. It was a vicious stare. He didn't have to look behind to see who it was. He could already guess the guy's identity. Hasn't learned to hide his killing intent. Sasuke, you've grown up too slowly. Uchiha Itachi sighed and paid close attention to Uchiha Sasuke. He was paying attention to him because Uchiha Itachi was afraid that Sasuke would be blinded by hatred, lose his mind, attack him in the exam space, and be punished by the space. Terumi was now the happiest person in the whole exam space. Her beautiful eyes fell on 2 tall figures, and her mouth rippled with a beautiful smile. She had been looking for a chance to get in touch with Hoshigaki Kisun from Akatsuki, and see if she could invite him back to Kurigakure. Unexpectedly, she got the buy one, get one free gift of a Momochi's abuser. What better chance was there than now? If she didn't have to keep her image, Terumi couldn't wait to dance around in joy. These 2 men, in a sense, were the heroes of Kurigakure, and they were just like her. The only difference was that they both failed. And she had succeeded. Ra. Kurisuchi's teeth gritted, which made Tadara's soul tremble. He had already cursed Nagato several times in his heart. If you want to make a statement, why did you have to pull me in? And sent me to be in a team with this crazy bitch? Wasn't this pulling me into a trap? Wait. Trap. Suddenly, Tadara's eyes turned. He's got the makeup exam. Yeah. He can answer wrong on purpose. Tadara's eyes lit up as he smiled wickedly. In the center of the 7 high platforms, Nagato and the Pains, exactly 7 people, corresponding to each of the 7 high platforms, loudly proclaimed the rules of this examination. This is a makeup exam, with a total of 8 questions. It will use the rotating team approach to answer the questions. Answering correctly will give you a chance to answer the next question. Answering incorrectly will give the next team on your right the chance to answer. Teams with 2 or more correct answers will be considered as having passed the makeup exam, and those with less than 2 correct answers will be deemed to have failed. There's an analysis for correct answers and no analysis for wrong answers. Teams that answer 2 questions correctly in succession can specify a video analysis. There is no reward for passing in the makeup exam, but a penalty for failure. Wow. After hearing Nagato read out the rules, everyone on the 7 platforms was unhappy. In particular, the Konoha group, who wore red, was the most numerous, accounting for about 99.9999% of the over 60,000 people themselves. At this moment, both the shinobis and civilians yelled out in discontent. Originally, when pulled into space, they were still a little excited. After all, if they answered the questions correctly, they could gain great strength. But now they looked at Uzumaki Nagato and couldn't wait to curse him to death. TSK. Is this what you call convincing people with virtue? This is shit. This is simply a group-wide mass murder. Nara Shikamaru was stunned after hearing the rules. He didn't expect to hear such disgusting, brazen, terrible rules. There was no doubt that one team would succeed in the makeup exam. But the scariest thing was there was a high probability. Only one would succeed in the makeup exam. And Narashikamaru looked at Nagato above, and his heart shuddered. He didn't know if that guy chose the 6M pattern and deliberately broke up the Akatsuki group. If this was the case, then this man is terrible. Such scheming. Whether it was reducing the strength of the shinobi world or stimulating the struggle of each shinobi village, it was terrible. Narashikamaru looked at Narashikaku in shock, and found a stunned look at the other party's face. They both remembered every member of Akatsuki had a makeup exam opportunity. Moreover, the punishment that space gave out wouldn't be as generous as the rewards, right? At the same time, Nagato simply ignored the noise below. He read the small cards given to him by the exam space step by step. To ensure the fairness of this makeup exam, this exam will be broadcasted comprehensively. Swish. As Nagato's voice fell, a huge screen suddenly appeared above the crowd. The noise from the crowd suddenly stopped. What's more, they began to tidy up their hair and clothes. They weren't Akatsuki, those rookies. Although they were broadcasted live for the first time, they had long thought about it countless times, what they would do if they were in the live broadcast. Now this was their chance. Hello. Mom, it's me, Taraji. Can you see me? Mom. I'm Taraji. I'm Taraji. I love you, Mom. Hearing the voice behind him, Inoki's face darkened. He felt that he was usually too kind to his subordinates. I can't believe you're embarrassing me at a time like this. Look at Sunu, what is that group doing there fiddling with their hairstyle? Rasa, oh Rasa. What else can you do? Inoki speechlessly looked over to the Kumo area. He felt that with A's character, his men should. Killer Bee was taking the lead in showing off his muscles. Damn idiots. Inoki scared. He suddenly felt that he was very good, being able to tolerate Taraji in the village, at least, that was true. At the same time, seeing the live broadcast screen reappear, everyone in the shinobi world instantly stood up. These days, they always miss this thing. Wishing on the stars and the moon for this thing to reappear. Without this, they felt that they were weak, giddy, couldn't even raise a hint of interest, not even wanting to go against their mothers-in-law. But now, as soon as the live screen appeared, their backs weren't sore, their legs didn't hurt, and they were instantly refreshed. Inuwagakure. Seeing the appearance of the one named Taraji in the exam space, a group of women looked enviously at the somewhat smaller woman in the crowd. Her skin color was a little dark, and she usually got along well with her neighbors. At this moment, when she saw her son shouting his name and talking to her, the surrounding eyes that looked at her turned to envy. Jai-san, your tour has grown up. Yes, Jai-san, the whole shinobi world will know about you now. The woman's face immediately flushed as she twiddled with some of her hair in embarrassment. I'm sorry to make everyone laugh. My tour loves to be in the limelight. In a dark cave somewhere in the shinobi world, Ichihabito looked at the live broadcast with a straight face. He felt that it wouldn't make his heart waver no matter what happened in this live broadcast. A few days ago, taking advantage of Kakashi's coma, he escaped when Jiraiya was distracted and hid here. This was because he wanted to find traces of Zetsu. Zetsu. I'm going to kill you. At the other end of the shinobi world, underground. Black Zetsu stared faintly at the live broadcast screen appearing underground. He didn't expect that this thing could really broadcast to the entire world. Even the white Zetsus had them. What a terrible power this was. Maybe he could, since the purple team has the smallest number of people. The question will start from the purple team. Nagato continued to read the exam rules, filling the role of moderator for the first time. He couldn't wait to finish reading out everything that the makeup space had given him. Just as the crowd was getting a little impatient while listening, Nagato's voice suddenly rose. A's eyes moved. Unexpectedly, having fewer people gave them such a benefit. He immediately rubbed his fists and somewhat excitedly told Killer Bee, Derry, and the other 6 genins who came to take Konoha's Chunin exam behind him. Everyone answered well, and if you get it right, I will reward you heavily when you return to the village. Strive to keep up with Akatsuki last time and get every question right. Purple team, are you ready? Ready, ready. They hadn't finished yet, but Killer Bee's head was already nodding hard. A looked at the excited expressions on the faces of the 8 people behind him, and his heart moved. We have the morale. Come on. Several people were happy to hear that the first to answer the question were the Kumo shinobi. And the next turn would be the people to their right. Konoha, who had the largest number of people, was on the left side of the Kumo shinobi, suddenly made a noise and vented their dissatisfaction. Why should we be the last to answer a question when there were so many of us? What if the questions were all answered by others? Similarly, the black team with miscellaneous members responded negatively on the left side of the red team, as they were only second to Konoha in numbers. Therefore, they felt that this examination rule was biased. Hearing the cry from the black team, the white Kiri shinobi suddenly felt unhappy. We are supposed to be second. How could those people ask for a change whenever they wanted to? The examination rules are clear and fair. Besides, what's the point of fighting for positions? Later, when Kamagakure couldn't answer the questions, we would take over the baton, answer all the questions and make a clean sweep. The game would be over by then. How nice would that be? What's there to argue about? With Maki and the Suna group, Chiyo watched the groups who were clamoring against each other like a show. Their yellow Sunagakure was the fourth. It was quite fair. It was worth mentioning that they were after a Wagakure and before a Megakure. The next 3 minutes are the purple team's chance to answer. All other teams, quiet. As soon as Nagato's words fell, the platform where the Kumo team was standing suddenly lit up with purple light. Then the crowd realized that they could hear the conversations between the Reikage and his team, while the crowd inside couldn't listen to them. This scene immediately made everyone in the exam space startled. One-way shielded sound. Isn't this equivalent to the live broadcast? A live broadcast in a live broadcast. Above, Uzumaki Nagato had already started the first exam question, not giving the crowd time to think at all. As the moderator, he had access to not only all the questions and answers, but also the textual explanations. This was the advantage of a moderator. At the moment of seeing the first question, answer, and analysis, Uzumaki Nagato was stunned. His mouth opened in astonishment. He didn't expect that Orochimaru's handiwork would be so extensive. Killing the Kazekage and scheming on the Hokage, he took out 2 of the 5 major shinobi villages' cages. Surprisingly, he only lost 2 hands and some of his men. Such talent. Uzumaki Nagato used shared vision to look at Orochimaru. By now, he shouldn't have looking at Orochimaru's drooping arm, comparing the analysis, and then noticed the absence of Sarutobi Hiruzen and Rasa, Uzumaki Nagato was impressed. This timing, this arrangement, Orochimaru is a fucking talent. The crowd waiting anxiously for questions below, saw Nagato's reaction and suddenly became curious. What was it that could shock him so much? They wanted to see more, but found that they couldn't see anything. Can you stop dawdling? The group of people looked at Uzumaki Nagato with hatred. If they were able to beat him, they would definitely not keep the words in their hearts. In the red team, Orochimaru's snake eyes slightly narrowed. Although he had no evidence, he felt as if the leader had looked at him. Is the first question related to me? While Orochimaru was suspicious, Uzumaki Nagato finally recovered from the shock. First question. Who killed the 4th Kazekage before the Chunin exam? Holy shit. Holy shit. God fucking damn it. The moment he heard the question, Orochimaru's scalp went numb. What's this all about? He had just killed Rasa a moment ago, and now the question came out. Exam space, you don't have to be so up to date. Orochimaru squinted and looked at other platforms. He believed that the purple, white and brown groups couldn't answer this question. But the problem was that the yellow team was ahead of him. This meant that Suna would definitely give priority to the correct answer later. This Orochimaru smacked his lips and looked at Nagato. He didn't know if the leader's question was intentional to tie him to Akatsuki's chariot completely. It was okay if it was not intentional. But if it was intentional, leader, why bother? You can just read my ID card and be done with it. What? Rasa is dead. Everyone in the exam space was surprised and looked at the yellow platform in horror. Looking around, they didn't see Rasa's figure. Wait, what about Konoha's Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen? The crowd soon found the Konoha party, with Jiraiya, Tsunade, Orochimaru, and Uchiha Itachi standing in the forefront. Could it be everyone was startled, then looked in Konoha's direction in shock? Maki, what's going on? Chiyo looked angry. This was the first time Maki saw Chiyo appear angry. Maki glanced at Sasori at the forefront. Her expression fluctuated a few times, not only saying nothing but even suppressing the impulse to look at Konoha. But she already had the answer in her heart. Without getting reply, Chiyo had already received the desired information from Maki's actions. She grunted coldly to express the anger in her heart. When it's Sunagakure's turn to answer this question, you answered. Yes. He's dead. Sunagakure's 3 youngsters froze at the same time. In the next moment, inexplicable emotions appeared in their hearts. Then, they found that there wasn't much sorrow in their hearts, just a little sadness, and an inexplicable emotion. That was surprise. That guy, Rasa, is dead. The moment he heard the question, a brilliant light flashed in the Reikage's eyes. At this juncture, when Akatsuki appeared, the other cages went to the scene where Akatsuki was discovered. Only the 4th Kazekage, Rasa, and the 3rd Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen, didn't appear. It seemed that the answer was obvious. Brother, the answer could only be Sarutobi Hiruzen or the Akatsuki duo. A nodded and affirmed Killer B's guess. He knew the Killer B's IQ wasn't below him. He usually behaved brainless because he was so powerful that he didn't actually need to use his brain. After all, if you could solve a problem with your fist, why use your head? It's Sarutobi Hiruzen. Almost instantly, Inoki made up his mind about everything. Sarutobi Hiruzen used a clever plan to bind all the cages against Akatsuki, while he took the opportunity to attack another cage. Inoki hesitated for a moment. His conjecture was somewhat unreasonable. Unlike that guy Rasa, Sarutobi Hiruzen had always been a qualified cage in Inoki's mind. And indeed, that was exactly what happened. Sarutobi Hiruzen was a qualified protector, even though he wasn't a qualified pioneer. Konoha, in his hands, had lost its sharpness but hadn't declined. At the thought of this, Inoki felt it was more and more unreasonable. If Sarutobi Hiruzen was really ambitious to set them up with a scheme within a scheme, there was a prerequisite. That was, Konoha should have the ability to defeat or resist Akatsuki. Inoki looked at the red ocean of people in Konoha and fell into contemplation. Sanin, Ichiha, Akamichi, Hyuga, was it really as he thought? Suddenly, his eyes fell on Deidara beside him. Deidara, what do you think the answer to this question is? Oh, don't ask me, I don't know. Deidara brushed it off disdainfully. Not to mention not knowing, even if he did know, he wouldn't tell these people. Besides, he was thinking about how he was going to get everyone from Iwagakure into trouble later on. Time to answer the question. Purple team, tell us your answer. Nagato looked at the countdown that was about to hit 0 and directly urged. If the purple team failed to answer the question before the countdown was cleared, the right to answer the question would be transferred to the white team on their right. Akatsuki. The eyes of the fourth Reikage flashed with wise light as he answered the question. Actually, he preferred the answer third Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen, but Sarutobi Hiruzen was one person, and Akatsuki was a dozen people. Wasn't it obvious which answer had a higher success rate? Nagato above was about to judge that he was correct when a big red X appeared on the card, accompanied by a small red sentence. The answer range is too broad. Nagato paused. He thought the Reikage was right, but the result was glancing at the smug fourth Reikage. Nagato's icy words rose. Why don't you just answer, Shinobi? Wrong answer. Answering privileges are forwarded to the white team. Swish. In the space, the purple light dimmed, and a milky white light was turned on. Terumi Mei's plump figure quietly squeezed forward, passing through the gap between Hoshigaki Kisame and Mamachi Zabuza. She gracefully turned around, smiling at the two renegade shinobi from Kurigakure. Gentlemen, my answer is the third Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen. Do you have any insight? No, okay. Terumi Mei's eyes were full of appreciation as she nodded with a smile. She liked this kind of subordinates who were good at execution, and felt no need to direct others. Especially now when Kurigakure was struggling. The two former S-ranked renegade shinobis could directly improve the village's strength if they returned to the village at this time. Furthermore, these two people could be used as the core of the new 7 Swords of the Bloody Mist, and even teach the new generation in Kurigakure. The more she thought about it, the better she felt, but Terumi Mei still suppressed the invitation. She couldn't be too straightforward right now. Moreover, this was still being broadcasted live throughout the shinobi world. But, these two men, she'll take them. Our answer is Konoha's Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen. As if fearing that her answer would also be judged as too broad, Terumi Mei also confidently explained. Your chosen candidate for the makeup exam was the entire Konohagakure. And now that neither Ross nor Sarutobi Hiruzen had shown up, they both may have died together, right? After Terumi Mei explained, she looked back with confidence, and gave the other members of the white team a confident smile, which was very contagious. Oh, Mizuki-sama is so beautiful. Mizuki-sama is right. We will always support you. Mizuki-sama is awesome. Is this the exam space? In the red team, Uzumaki Naruto was still looking at the surrounding environment. He had woken up and looked around at the exam space curiously. After all, the exam space this time was different from the last live broadcast. But he also entered the exam space. This made him extremely excited. I'm in the exam space. Could the whole shinobi world see me? As long as I behave well, wouldn't it mean the whole shinobi world would recognize me? The more Naruto thought so, the more he thought it was possible. As he was immersed in joy, he suddenly heard someone speak ill of the third Hokage. The more he listened to the person, the angrier he was. The third Ojisan is so good. How could he die? He couldn't help it and directly stood up. Rushing to the front of the red team, he reached out and pointed at the white team's crowd, his face full of anger. You're lying. Third Ojisan would never do such a thing. In Naruto's mind, Sarutobi Hiruzen was very kind to him and the only person he had contact with since childhood. He brought him fresh instant noodles and milk each time, so that he had food to survive in the pitifully dark room. Therefore, he absolutely wouldn't allow others to slander third Ojisan. never. Uzumaki Naruto was aggressive, but the Kiri group, shrouded in white light, couldn't hear anything from the outside, and naturally couldn't hear Uzumaki Naruto's shouts. On the contrary, other teams heard Uzumaki Naruto's voice, and they all looked at Uzumaki Naruto. Uzumaki Naruto was recently in the limelight. Everyone knew that he would definitely be an extremely powerful force in the future. At the very least, far beyond the power of the 5 cages of the shinobi villages. Although a genius who hadn't grown up wasn't considered a genius and had the possibility of prematurely dying, Uzumaki Naruto wasn't the same. He had Konoha behind him. It was the largest shinobi village in the shinobi world. It was almost inevitable that he would grow up if Akatsuki didn't take him away this time. Nagato was also looking at Uzumaki Naruto. As the moderator, he had the right to interact. The so-called interaction meant that Nagato could designate others to interact with him, controlled by him. And the 2 people who had contacted each other would leave together when they left the examination space. So, Nagato was going to wait and see if there were any good prospects among these people, and directly catch them all. Anyway, if a few other little ones are added, it might also stimulate a sense of pressure in Naruto and Hinata's studies. Thinking about it, Nagato didn't say anything. At the same time, the milky light in the space suddenly faded away and turned to the brown Iwo platform. This scene made the confident Tsurumi freeze for a moment. Then a blush suddenly appeared on her face. She looked at the moderator Nagato with some annoyance. Damn it. She got the answer wrong. But the Reikage's answer, Akatsuki, was also wrong. Wait. Tsurumi grabbed the light bulb that had just flashed in her mind. When the Reikage answered wrong, Nagato, the leader of Akatsuki, said, "Why don't you just answer shinobi? Was it a hint?" Does that mean that the answer was an Akatsuki member? But Reikage played it smart, and so it was ruled as wrong. The more Tsurumi thought about it, the more she thought it was possible. She didn't move to look at Inoki's group that was enveloped by the light. She was sure that Inoki had guessed the answer by now, but Akatsuki had many people, and if they attempted it. No, her group also had Akatsuki members. Thinking about it, Tsurumi looked at the 2 guys behind her with annoyance. Damn it, why didn't you tell me you know the answer? Aren't you guys going to be punished for failing the makeup exam later? In the brown team, Inoki also considered this, and he thought even more thoroughly. Akatsuki's undead duo was the least likely. Of course, it didn't rule out the possibility that they deliberately exposed their whereabouts after killing Rasa. However, Rasa's location was very close to his own. If there were a battle, he would certainly hear the noise. After all, no one could quietly assassinate a cage unless that brain-dead cage foolishly trapped himself into a confinement jutsu. So, do I have to go through all of the remaining members of Akatsuki one by one, trial and error? Inoki mused, watching the countdown fly by as he thought about it and looked over at Tadar. He felt that the latter must know the answer, but he would never tell him. Just now, he also contradicted him. After all, if we were no longer from the same village, we wouldn't have the same goal. Inoki sighed quietly and looked over at his granddaughter. Kurisuchi, choose someone from Akatsuki. When Kurisuchi heard Inoki, her big beautiful eyes blinked, and her gaze landed on Tadar. Hey Tadar and I, Grandpa says you're smarter than me, so you pick one. Kurisuchi looked at Inoki provocatively. Inoki smiled bitterly for a moment. He didn't expect Kurisuchi would still care about the last time he said she was inferior to Tadar. Inoki thought about it. It was a random draw anyway, and who Tadara would answer was all the same to him. Feel free to do as you please. Not only that, but Inoki also waved his hand at the other Iwa shinobi behind him, silencing the clamor of the group. Oh, ha ha ha. Tadara suddenly laughed awkwardly. Originally, he thought that he would have to go through a lot of trouble to get permission to answer the questions, but he didn't expect the right to answer the questions was given to him so easily. Kurisuchi, oh, Kurisuchi. You believed me when I was a kid. You interrupted my work when you were a kid. Ho 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 ho, you can rest assured. Looking at Kurisuchi's expression, Tadara gave her a confident look in return. Let me answer the questions. You can rest assured. Yes, I, Tadara, will be famous haha, picking one from the members of Akatsuki. In his heart, Tadara really wanted to say it was himself, but with such a superficial answer, he was afraid that Kurisuchi and others would tear him apart despite the rules of the exam space. Anyway, he couldn't pick the leader Konan, and he had a good relationship with Sasori, so he couldn't pick him. Therefore, he wanted to find another Akatsuki member who would take the blame. His line of sight skimmed across the other 6 platforms, and finally, his eyes fell on the red group. To say who Tadara hated the most, it should be Konoha, especially the 2 hypocrites from Uchiha. One abruptly pulled himself into Akatsuki and traumatized him with the Sharingan, while the other was still alive when Tadara of the future had blown himself up in the fight. Therefore, when Tadara saw Konoha, he decided that this crap should be settled on Konoha's head. Interestingly, the red Konoha group had 2 Akatsuki members, both standing in the first row. Orochimaru and Uchiha Itachi. Just need one out of the 2. Tadara thought for a few seconds. Compared to Orochimaru, Uchiha Itachi was more likely. After all, his eyes had the strength to deal with cage-level powerhouses silently. When Iwagakure answers this question next time, I'll put this crap on you. With a somewhat regretful glance at Uchiha Itachi, Tadara answered. Orochimaru. Tadara finished and looked at Kurasuchi with some excitement, glancing at Inoki out of the corner of his eye. He wanted to see the 2 of them regretted. Ha ha ha. When he heard his name, Orochimaru, who was already feeling insecure, jolted up. He was expecting his name to pop up only when Suna got the next chance to answer, but he didn't expect it to come out right now. How did Tadara know? Looking at Tadara's excited and smug look, Orochimaru looked at Nagato. Could it be that the leader instructed him to do this? To warn me about my little stunts? Orochimaru sighed quietly in his heart. Originally, he was thinking of waiting for Konoha to find out, so that after seeing the battle scene, they could conclude that. When Akatsuki attacked Konoha, the 4th Kazuki-ichi rebelled together with Akatsuki's Orochimaru to attack the 3rd Hokage. The 3rd Hokage was burned while protecting Konoha, killed the 4th Kazuki-ichi, scared Orochimaru, and at the end, he died of serious injuries. For this reason, he also deliberately set up the scene. But who would have thought that such a question would come up in the exam space? Now it seemed that it was impossible to hide it. While Orochimaru was thinking, Uzumaki Nagato, the moderator, announced the result with a surprised tone. Brown team, correct answer. Nani Tadara, who was about to enjoy watching Kurasuchi and Inoki act ridiculous, snapped to attention. His face was full of disbelief. This can't be. Tadara, well done. Inoki had no qualms about praising him. In fact, Tadara was really worthy of it. This teenage cage-level powerhouse. His talent and understanding were as high as Madara, plus his effort at this moment. Bravo, bravo. To help Iwa Shinobi answer the question correctly, he didn't hesitate to offend Orochimaru from the same organization. It seemed that his heart was still in Iwagakure. If I can keep this next generation of Shinobis in Iwagakure, I won't have to worry about Konoha. Glancing at Tadara, then at Uzumaki Naruto of Konoha, and finally gazing at Kurasuchi, who was looking at Tadara with a puffed-up face, Inoki smiled. He understood everything. He was also once Tadara's age. If Kurasuchi could pull Tadara back to Iwagakure, Inoki felt that although it was a bit worse than Uzumaki Naruto, it wasn't unacceptable. After all, Uzumaki Naruto had that Hyuga girl beside him. Even he couldn't bear to pull them apart. A man, once they get older, they become more sentimental. Inoki shook his head with a self-deprecating smile. As for Tadara's current flirtation with Kurasuchi, Inoki also has his own understanding. Right now, Tadara was still young, and he didn't understand how good a woman was. When he understood it, it's Orochimaru. Orochimaru killed Kazuki-sama. The Yokozuna group suddenly exploded upon hearing the correct answer, and dozens of pairs of eyes stared at Orochimaru in the red group. Damn it. Orochimaru betrayed us. Almost instantly, the Shinobis who knew about Rasa's arrangement figured everything out and felt furious. Shut up. Baki suddenly shouted. His voice was shaking. At first, he still thought that the answer was Sarutobi Hiruzen. After all, Rasa's strength and inside information were far behind Sarutobi Hiruzen, so it wasn't surprising that he was killed. But after the White Kiri team ruled out Sarutobi Hiruzen, Baki knew that the enemy could only be Orochimaru. Furthermore, Konoha's Sarutobi Hiruzen wasn't in this space. Baki believed that Orochimaru and Rasa jointly killed Sarutobi Hiruzen, and then he turned to attack Rasa. The reason why his voice trembled was because his eyes were full of anger. Like a volcano that had been suppressed for a long time, it completely erupted. At the raised platform in the middle, Nagato switched the card in his hand and started the second question. Brown group, please continue answering the question. Question 2. Who killed? The moment they heard the question, the most intense reaction wasn't from Danzo Shimura himself, but the countless root members surrounding him at the moment. Danzo-sama would die this. Doesn't that mean we are all going to die? When they joined Root, they had all been controlled by Danzo with a secret technique or drugs. In other words, if Danzo accidentally died, they would be buried along with him. Although they were horrified in their hearts, they had masks on their faces, and no one could see any abnormality. I'm going to die after all. The cold light flashed in Danzo Shimura's single eye. Back in the last exam, when he knew that he wasn't going to be the 5th Hokage, he had guessed that he would die. However, he couldn't understand why he was still alive when Akatsuki's leader attacked Konoha. Why did Tsunade get elected when I was alive? Besides, when did I die? And who killed me? These series of questions had been lingering in his mind. With a deep gaze towards Nagato, Shimura Danzo knew that the right answer was in his hands. Tadara. Answer this question too. Kurasuchi looked at Tadara with anger. She thought that Tadara must have been lucky just now. It's just a coincidence. Or maybe he already knew the answer and shocked her on purpose. After all, he was also a member of Akatsuki. So, she refused to accept it. She knew that Tadara's shinobi skills were better than her, and her grandfather praised him all the time, so she nagged Tadara since childhood and wanted to learn from him. But she absolutely couldn't accept that Tadara was smarter than her. That's impossible. No way. Kurasuchi looked at Tadara provocatively. I don't believe you can still get this question right. If you get it right, I'll admit you're better than me. Behind her, Inoki looked at the young ones with a smile. He didn't think that the two young ones were acting childish right now. This was just the way a bond should be created. With more bonds, Tadara couldn't escape. Moreover, Tadara had never done anything wrong to Iwagakure. If he was willing to go back to the village, Inoki could easily solve the problem of him becoming a renegade shinobi. Iwagakure could still accommodate a renegade S-rank shinobi. You want me to answer? Are you sure? For the first time, Tadara thought Kurasuchi was stupid. Letting him continue to answer. You're determined to let Iwa fall into a trap, huh? Tadara got a little excited. To be honest, he was careless just now, not expecting that the real answer would be Orochimaru. This gave him a little bit of regret. In the final stage, when he had to choose one, he actually ruled out the wrong answer and chose the correct one. Was choosing one out of the two that difficult? Tadara shook his head and shook the mistake of the first question out of his head. He was careless about the last question. But this time, Kurasuchi gave him another opportunity. He had to cherish it. I can't answer correctly this time. If he was correct again, Iwagakure would succeed in this makeup exam. Tadara looked at Orochimaru and Uchiha Itachi. He kept thinking that the blame should be on Konoha's head. He had thought that if he got another chance to answer the question, he would blame Uchiha Itachi. But Uchiha Itachi was too strong and ruthless. He was even willing to destroy his own clan. If he could destroy that, why not Danzo? It's still too likely. Tadara was a little hesitant to dive into the mindset of a guy like Uchiha Itachi, but was afraid that it would really be him. No way. This time, choose an absolutely impossible answer. That's right. Doesn't Uchiha Itachi have a younger brother? Yes, the little boy. Blame him. Just blame it on him. With this in mind, Tadara's mouth turned up as he looked at Kurasuchi with a smile. This time, I'll definitely be wrong. It's settled. Inoki looked at Tadara with expectant eyes. In his view, Tadara was now silent, and his eyes wandered, a sign that his brain was running wild. Just how would Tadara answer this question? What is Tadara's thinking? Inoki pondered the question and found that he had no idea at all. This question was too difficult. Filling in the blanks was so hard. At least answering multiple choice questions could be done at random. There was a chance of picking the correct one. But filling in the blanks, there was no way. Knowing was knowing, and not knowing was not knowing. There was no possibility of guessing correctly by luck. Suddenly, Inoki saw the corner of Tadara's mouth pick up, and his heart shook. Could it be that Tadara got the answer so soon? How is that possible? I didn't realize that there was such a character in Akatsuki. Noticing the corner of Tadara's mouth, Narashikaku spoke to Narashikamaru in a serious tone. This problem, even he, had no clue at all. Unexpectedly, the other side had prevailed in just a few seconds. This intelligence gathering ability. This intelligence analyzing ability. No wonder Akatsuki is so strong. No wonder, this time, Akatsuki made such a decisive move. Their method of breaking the game was so sharp. So, it was all his plan. Akatsuki's strategist was Tadara. Leader, my answer is, Uchiha. Sure enough. He was surprised. His mouth was open. Ha 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 ha, Uchiha Itachi, you didn't think of that, did you? Congratulations to the brown group, correct answer. Tadara's skeptical gaze turned to Nagato. He felt that he must have heard wrong. No. I'm certain. There was no must-have. He just misheard. Tadara mentally drained himself and was just about to speak when he heard the leader's voice once again. The brown team was the first to answer 2 questions correctly and succeeded in the makeup exam. They get one chance to see the video analysis. I got it right. I got it right again. I'm fucked. Iwagakure succeeded in the makeup exam. Tadara, who doubted life, looked back and looked at the admiring eyes behind him. He was stunned. He was totally confused. With a smile that was uglier than crying, Tadara's heart was infinitely confused. Fill in the blanks. Was it that simple? Just say any random answer. Did the leader give it to him? Good. Good. Yeah. Tadara, well done. Yes, Tadara, you are really amazing. I can't answer any of these questions, but you can. Too powerful, Tadara. Listening to the praises from behind her, Kurasuchi's gaze and expression were unusually complicated. There was no doubt that the exam space was fair. If he got it right once, she could still say that Tadara just had random luck and was pretentious, but he got it right twice. It couldn't be random luck, right? Kuretsuchi sighed. Sure enough, whatever it was, Tadara was always ahead of her. Powerful. It's too powerful. Tadara was too powerful. She was convinced. She was completely convinced. Kuretsuchi clenched her fist tightly. It seemed like she had to work hard. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to catch up to Tadara. Tadara, well done. At this moment, Inoki smiled with his eyebrows and raised his hand to pat Tadara's back. His heart was overwhelmed with delight. Now, he was 100% sure that Tadara's heart was still with the Wagaker. Good, good. Tadara, don't worry, Iwa has always been your home. Come back whenever you want. This statement from Inoki wasn't a joke. It was a guarantee from the cage. When the other shinobis of the Brown Iwa group heard this sentence, their facial expressions changed instantly. It took a long time for them to return to normal. They were all smart people, how could they not hear the meaning behind Tsuchikage-sama's words? Me. My name. In the red group, Uchiha Sasuke, who was hiding in the crowd and staring at Uchiha Itachi, suddenly became speechless. What did it have to do with me? Who is Shimura Danzo? What's a root? Don't bother me. Can't you see I'm busy observing for Uchiha Itachi's weaknesses? Uchiha Sasuke fixed his eyes on Itachi's back. Right now, there was no protection on the other party's back. If I throw a shuriken, will he die? Sasuke. The correct answer was Sasuke. Itachi's heart was instantly surprised. Then a flash of killing intent quickly appeared in his eyes. How dare Shimura Danzo make an enemy of Sasuke? He has to die. I'll kill him. As if there was a voice shouting in his heart, Uchiha Itachi slowly closed his eyes. When he opened his eyes in the next moment, he regained his calmness. Since Sasuke could kill him once, Itachi believed that Sasuke could kill him twice. This kind of person should be left as a grindstone for Sasuke. But Uchiha Itachi suddenly felt worried. Shimura Danzo was the strangest guy he had ever been in contact with. He wondered if Sasuke was injured when he killed him. It's him. Danzo's face was expressionless, but his hand that held his cane gripped it tighter and tighter. He even made a dent on the cane handle he was holding. Seeing this scene, the root members in the group immediately felt a chill, one after the other. Having been with Shimura Danzo for a long time, they were familiar with Shimura Danzo's character. This was exactly how it looked like when Shimura Danzo was enraged. In the crowd, the last root saw this scene, and his whole body trembled fiercely. Fear, boundless fear. He knew that he was going to die. Moreover, he would die very miserably. He was the root member that had abducted Uzumaki Naruto. Danzo ordered him to take 3 members to protect Uzumaki Naruto, and look for an opportunity to bring Uzumaki Naruto to root. It was hard to find when Anbu was absent, but he successfully caught Uzumaki Naruto and disposed of the witness. But who would have thought that Akatsuki would intervene at such a time? Now, not only did he fail to complete the mission, but he also lost 3 members from root, and moreover, he knew Danzo-sama's secret. He was going to die. At the center of the space, Uzumaki Nagato, the moderator, was shocked. He discovered that Akatsuki had a talented person. Orochimaru. Had amazing strategic skills and unbelievable control of timing. Tadara. Although he was weak, his IQ was high. He could also speak well. There were others. What Uzumaki Nagato couldn't understand most now was himself. Why was Akatsuki so strong but ended up so miserably under his leadership? Uzumaki Nagato suppressed the shock and confusion in his heart and spoke to the team where Tadara was. Brown group, please answer the 3rd question. Who destroyed the 4th Raikage's arm? Don't we get a chance to view the analysis video? Inoki's voice rang out as soon as Nagato's words left his mouth. Nagato glanced at the prompt in his hand and gave Inoki the following explanation. Priority will be given to answering questions. When your team gives an incorrect answer, you will be asked to select a question from those you had answered correctly for video analysis. When Nagato finished, he turned his attention to Tadara. He didn't believe that Tadara could still get this question right. The answer to this question was the same as the previous question, which was Uchiha Sasuke. Nagato didn't know what was going on. Why were there questions with the same answer? However, this guy named Uchiha Sasuke successfully caught his attention. Shimura Danzo was also his enemy, and in a way, Uchiha Sasuke did him a favor by killing Shimura Danzo. Now seeing Uchiha Sasuke's name again, Nagato felt that this person wasn't so simple. Nagato was prepared to wait and see. If this Sasuke was also extremely talented, he should be brought along with Naruto and Hinata at the end of the exam. Hahaha. Tadara reacted from the shock, and his laughter had begun to sound maniacal. He didn't believe it. He wouldn't believe it. Why was his answer correct? For what reason? He thought he had tried hard to avoid all the correct answers, but it turned out to be the correct answer that he had tried to avoid. I'll answer this question. Tadara waved his hand and didn't give anyone from the Iwa group a chance to react. The answer to this question is still Uchiha Sasuke. Tadara's eyes bulged, his hands clenched together in a death grip, like a gambler waiting for the cards to open. He didn't believe it. He didn't believe it. This time, he directly repeated the answer to the previous question. Could I still be correct? Looking back, he looked at Kurosuchi and Inoki, who froze up once again, and the group of Iwa shinobis, who looked stunned. Tadara sneered in his heart. This question has to be wrong. The answer to this question is still Uchiha Sasuke. Tadara's convincing voice resonated throughout the entire exam space, and both the people in the space and those watching the live broadcast in the shinobi world froze for a moment. Could someone really answer like that? They never thought that Tadara would make such a choice. Repeating the same answer, you're a fucking talent. How much more indifferent could one get? Tadara, well done. Inoki nodded after he froze for a few seconds. He figured out why Tadara did this. We have succeeded in the makeup exam, and continuing to answer questions won't do us any good. It will only cause hostility from other shinobi villages. A tree that stands out too high will be the first one to get destroyed by the wind. You understand this principle. It's a rare thing for someone your age. It seems that you have grown a lot during your time in Akatsuki. Inoki's admiration was endless, and his words were full of satisfaction and lament for Tadara. This shocked Kurosuchi beside him. In her impression, her strict and rigid grandfather would never praise someone so much. Her grandfather was even more critical and accusatory towards her father. But Kurosuchi looked at Tadara. Had he calculated everything? This was way too powerful. However, if he does this now, would he be reprimanded by Akatsuki later on? This is impossible. Tadara shouldn't be able to answer this question correctly. Nagato, as the moderator, was also confused by Tadara's amazing answers at the moment. This question, thinking about it in another way, not to mention him, even all the other Akatsuki members couldn't answer correctly. Even if Uchiha Sasuke's brother, Uchiha Itachi, were asked to answer the question, he wouldn't be able to answer correctly. But Tadara got it right. This was simply amazing. Nagato made up his mind. He wouldn't let those Iwa shinobis get Tadara back from Akatsuki. With Tadara's understanding and wisdom, he could fully understand his current thinking and thoughts. Nagato had made up his mind. When this was all over, he would focus on training Tadara. With that thought, Nagato turned his gaze to Kurosuchi, the girl beside Tadara. He vaguely noticed that the girl had a restraining effect on Tadara. Maybe I can use her to motivate Tadara to study. Very good, 3 correct. This kid, Tadara, has great wisdom. The speaker was the 4th Reikage, standing at the front of the purple team with his arms wrapped around him, cruelly. He had just discovered an interesting thing. None of the members in Akatsuki came from his Kumagakure. On the contrary, most of them were from Konohagakure and Karigakure. Especially Konoha, Akatsuki was simply a sub-branch of Konoha. Killer B, what are you looking at? The 4th Reikage felt Killer B's strange gaze and asked curiously. No, big bro, nothing. Killer B shook his hands quickly, and cold sweat dripped from his face. He had just finished talking with his brother a few days ago, saying, "You two are both my left and right arms." But in the blink of an eye, his brother's arm was going to get cut off. It was because he planted that flag, right? His brother was too pitiful. He hadn't even gotten married yet now, he was going to lose a hand. Leader, quick release the answer. In the brown team, Tadara's eyes were still fixed on Uchiha Itachi. He had a wicked smile on his mouth. When I answer the question next time, I'll blame it on you. Tadara was halfway through his sentence when the verdict sounded from Nagato. The brown team answered correctly again. The sound of Nagato's announcement was high, and his exclamatory tone was unmistakable and clearly conveyed to everyone's ears. Then, Nagato clapped his hands. In the exam space, everyone on other platforms froze. Then, a huge clamor followed. Their lips moved, but they didn't know what else to say at that moment. We're convinced. Really impressed. Tadara of the brown team is so powerful. So powerful that they no longer wanted to compete with him. It's not that we don't want to compete. It's that we can't compete. If there weren't 5 more questions and a chance to continue, they just wanted to declare surrender right now. It's horrible. It's a terrible blow. They just wanted to ask. Tadara, how are you so strong? How have you calculated the answer? The clap sounded, and they looked at Nagato, not knowing what the host was doing. Could it be some kind of coded message? No one knew who took the lead in imitating it. Then, this movement seemed to have a magical power and spread rapidly. Uzumaki Naruto's 2 palms were red from clapping, but he was still clapping fiercely. He wanted to be recognized by everyone in the village, even by the whole shinobi world. So, he wanted to be just like this guy, answering all the questions precisely and quickly, so that everyone would know how good he was. This man had done what he wanted to do and was now simply his role model and idol. I also want to answer 3 correctly, no. 4 questions. Grandfather. Kuretsuchi called out tentatively and, finding his grandfather unresponsive, gently poked Inoki with her finger. Proof. Inoki fell straight to the ground, startling Kuretsuchi. She was just about to make a move when she found that her grandfather had risen to his feet with a swift motion and was gently stroking his beard. As if nothing had happened just now. Grandfather. Kuretsuchi called out again. This time she found that her grandfather, Inoki, had a blush all over his dark face. Cough cough, Tadara is young after all, and it's good to show off a bit. This is understandable. Inoki coughed unnaturally a few times. His old face reddened a bit. He also thought that Tadara was deliberately answering incorrectly, but as a result, the answer was unexpectedly correct. I got it right. Correct answer. Did I just get it right again? Tadara's eyes were wide open as if his eyes were about to pop out, and his body began to tremble violently. That's not excitement, that's anger. How could I be right about anything? For what reason? He just wanted to cause problems for the Iwa Shinobi a little bit. He just wanted to give the Iwa Shinobi some wrong answers. Why was it so difficult? All of them were correct. Shit. Fuck. Tadara's 3 months were biting their respective lips for fear that they would directly swallow clay and self-destruct. Too motherfucking irritating. Now, Brown Group, please answer the 4th question. Why did Uzumaki Nagato have the ability to resurrect but didn't revive Yahiko? After Uzumaki Nagato read it out, he was stunned by it himself. Just now, his mood was a little excited because of all the people in the exam space, so he directly read out the question without thinking. Now, he reflected, and his face instantly changed, and stared to death at the analysis of the 4th question. When they heard this question, people in the exam space looked at Uzumaki Nagato with horror. Well, they saw Konoha in the last video analysis where everyone came back to life at the end. It wasn't confirmed yet. Now, it's confirmed. He had the ability to resurrect people. It's just... Everyone's expressions changed as they looked at Nagato. They felt a little weary for a while. It seemed that he, himself, didn't know the answer to this question. And you're asking us. This was simply an unsolvable problem. Suddenly, everyone looked at the 2 figures at the head of the brown team. This question, they just couldn't believe it. Could Tadara also? Uria's eyes looked straight at Uzumaki Nagato. Since the last answer, he had had such a question in mind. Unexpectedly, the exam space would ask this question so soon. Judging from Uzumaki Nagato's loss of composure, he obviously hadn't thought about the answer to this question either. Uria's eyes fluctuated a few times, guessing several possible answers in his heart, but he rejected them in the end. He was looking forward to the answer to this question. In addition to Jiraiya, another person in the exam space was agitated by this question. That was Conan. She wanted to know the answer to this question even more than Jiraiya. In the last video analysis, Nagato's death was due to using the outer path, Samsara of Heavenly Life technique. But he only resurrected all the people in Konohagakure before his death. Why can't he resurrect Yahiko? This was a question that she had been burying in her heart. She wouldn't doubt Nagato, just like Nagato wouldn't doubt her. But she couldn't help but think about it. Nagato would die if he used the forbidden art that would revive people. She knew it. If Yahiko's life could be replaced with his life, she believed that Nagato would definitely do it. But she had asked Nagato, he said. The medium for resurrection wasn't the life of the jutsu user, but chakra. In the video, Nagato died because he had overdrafted chakra from his body and couldn't support the jutsu, so he was killed by the jutsu itself. But now, Nagato's body had fully recovered, and with the 10% chakra rewarded by the space, his chakra was even stronger than some tailed beasts. Why hasn't Yahiko been resurrected yet? She didn't understand. The leader has jutsu that can revive people, and if you beg him, you should be able to bring that little thing of yours back to life. Kakuzu glanced at Haiden and spoke with a straight face, as if he was really just suggesting it. Haiden paused when he heard Kakuzu's words. He knew who Kakuzu was talking about, and he also knew the way he was talking about. Haiden hesitated for a moment as if thinking of something. After a long while, he slowly shook his head after seeing Conan's expectant eyes. No, I don't want to resurrect her. Kakuzu froze. Even his voice was laced with some menace. If you're afraid that the leaders won't agree, I can reluctantly intercede for you. Kakuzu's eyes slightly narrowed. No. Haiden shook his head and then firmly said, without the removal of the wicked, my congregation wouldn't be able to spread the faith. I will resurrect her, but not now. When I have killed all the evil people in the shinobi world and sent them to Jashin-sama, then I'll approach the leader. What do you mean? Kakuzu looked at Haiden suspiciously. He found that he didn't understand this crazy religious man more and more. I won't resurrect Kana until all the wicked people are removed. Haiden's words made Kakuzu annoyed, and he shook his head. Suddenly, his body shuddered. He turned to look at his leader, Nagato, then at Haiden. He suddenly discovered that there was something in common between them. Yes. The leader's dream had always been to devote himself to the peace of the shinobi world. Even if his life were exchanged for Yahiko's resurrection before his body recovered, the shinobi world wouldn't achieve peace anytime soon. After all, the leader originally wanted to suppress all wars with fear and pain. But the resurrected Yahiko wouldn't be able to match with the leader either in terms of fighting power or ability. Therefore, the leader wouldn't resurrect Yahiko. He thought the leader wanted to trade his life for Yahiko's life after achieving peace in the shinobi world. Then after the leader drank Conan's extra reward, and his body had fully recovered, he still didn't resurrect Yahiko. This only meant that hey, what are you dumbfounded about? Haiden's palm waved in front of Kakuzu, interrupting his thoughts. Kakuzu came to his senses and looked at Haiden. I know the answer to this question. Brown team, please answer the questions. In the center of the exam space, Uzumaki Nagato steadied himself. It was too shocking. This question was simply asking about his way of thinking. He considered this question himself. After all, he didn't think anyone but him could guess the answer in his heart, including Conan. A so-called unsolvable question would be answered incorrectly by each of the 7 groups. Such a question should simply be discarded. Me. Answer this question. Tadara's voice was hoarse. He didn't care. He really didn't care. Last time, he decided that he would answer Uchiha Sasuke, no matter what question came up next. He just couldn't believe it. It was still right. He was going crazy. He was really going crazy. He was now beginning to wonder if he had any special constitution, making the exam space take good care of him. My answer is, shut up. The foolish reprimand directly interrupted Tadara. A second later, a small female hand instantly jumped up and shoved into Tadara's mouth with force. Yes. Kuretsuchi was afraid that she couldn't cover it, so she just stuffed her small fist in. Tadara, you can't answer any more questions. Fuff whoa fuff whoa. Tadara's eyes were bloodshot as he looked extremely frightened and agitated. Although Kuretsuchi pounced on him, he was still struggling violently. Kuretsuchi, good job. Inoki wiped the fine sweat from his forehead and breathed a sigh of relief. At the same time, he felt very lucky in his heart. It was good that Kuretsuchi saw the opportunity and quickly stopped Tadara, who was about to answer. A tree that stands out too high will be the first one to get destroyed by the wind. Right now, Akatsuki was everyone's common enemy, and the leader of Akatsuki brought everyone here, only to weaken the shinobi world's strength. So, they had to stop this from happening. It was normal for Tadara to answer 2 questions correctly for Wagakure. No other group could say anything about it. It was understandable to answer 3 questions correctly, but 4 that's definitely not okay. Can't he see that the faces of the Reikage and Mizukage have turned eggplant purple? They're almost as vivid as the purple group's clothes. I can't let Tadara answer. I really can't let Tadara answer. If he answers again, something is bound to happen. Inoki looked at Tadara, who struggled while his mouth was covered and repeatedly replied to Nagato's words. We don't know. We don't know. None of us in the brown group knows. Pass, pass. Let us pass. As if afraid that Nagato would move too slow, Inoki didn't even think about it and directly urged, is it possible to play the video analysis before the yellow team answers the question? Put it up quickly, just the second one. The one where Uchiha Sasuke killed Danzo. With that, he joined the people that held Tadara down and held down the mouth on Tadara's hand. Tadara, don't blame Kuretsuchi. The water in the shinobi world is too deep, and you're too young, you can't handle it. Nagato took a look at the chaotic brown team, and saw that space did not prompt the other team for disrupting the proceedings, so he didn't warn them. The brown team gave up answering the 4th question, so their turn in answering has ended. For this answer, the brown team answered 3 questions correctly, and was awarded an opportunity to watch the video analysis. Now, start playing the 2nd question video analysis. As Nagato's voice dropped, all the light in the exam space turned off, followed by darkness, and a light screen slowly appeared at the top of everyone's head. Seeing this familiar scene, everyone knew that this was the video being loaded, and it would take another 10 seconds or so. Ha, Inoki, that old fox. The 4th Reikage snorted. Of course, he knew why Inoki held down Tadara, who wanted to answer the question. Even he knew why Inoki chose the 2nd question for video analysis. Because only that question did not involve any of the cages. The first question, which involved the Kazekage, was very likely to involve the Hokage. With Inoki's sophistication, naturally, he wouldn't choose that one. And the third question involved himself. He would certainly try to avoid it as much as possible, so he could only choose the second question. A sneered in his heart, and his eyes looked at the screen that gradually lit up. Fortunately, there was also some information about Uchiha Sasuke in this second question. He was interested in seeing how the boy destroyed his arm. Uchiha Itachi looked at the screen expressionlessly. Under his red robe, 2 fists were unconsciously clenched. He didn't expect Sasuke would be so restless in the future. He not only killed Danzo, a senior member of Konoha, but he also made an enemy of the 4th Raikage, even destroying his opponent's arm. Uchiha Itachi felt a little proud. Sasuke, it seems that you've really grown into a powerful shinobi. Behind Uchiha Itachi, Uchiha Sasuke hadn't reacted to the shock. Me. Destroying the arm of the 4th Raikage. He didn't know who Shimura Danzo was, but he knew of the 4th Raikage. That's a cage. How could I beat such a person? Although he didn't know what would happen to him in the future, it was an indisputable fact that he would become a powerful shinobi in the future. This made his heart feel a little excited. In the future, if he had that kind of strength, he would be able to kill that man. Suddenly, he looked at the loser, Uzumaki Naruto, and found that the other party was looking intently at the big screen. He smiled proudly in his heart. Just wait. I'll let you see my style. Watching the screen gradually light up, Uchiha Sasuke quickly shifted his attention. At the same time, a trace of doubt arose in his heart. If he became a powerful shinobi, then when Konoha was invaded by pain, why didn't he show up? Second question, video analysis. The text faded, and the videos started up. The first thing that appeared was a distortion of the void, and then, 3 figures eerily emerged from the distortion of the void. Uchiha Ibito. Looking at this highly iconic move, the look on Uchiha Itachi's face instantly changed. He didn't expect that Sasuke would cross paths with him in the future. Damn it. Is it me? In the black group, Uzumaki Karen, with red hair and glasses, looked at herself on screen, and her whole body froze. She never dreamed that she would appear on the screen. Her teammates also saw this and looked at her curiously at the moment. Why was the mobile medical kit of Kusagakure in it? Moreover, why does she look so strong? Hearing the clamor of the black team, Nagato's gaze looked over, and his expression wavered when he saw Karen's fiery red hair. The screen slowly elongated, at which point everyone noticed that opposite the 3, an old man was standing with a lot of bandages wrapped around him. He only had one eye, and at the moment, was looking coldly at the 3 who had made their appearance. Shimura Danzo. Crack. In the shinobi world, underground. Uchiha Ibito expressionlessly crushed a white Zetsu's neck and shifted his gaze to the screen. He was a little confused as to why he, himself, was hanging around with Uchiha Sasuke. Oh, isn't that guy Uchiha Ibito? Seeing a familiar face make an appearance, people of the shinobi world, who watched the live broadcast, became interested. They didn't recognize the teenager with a lot of bruises on his body, the sweet-looking girl, or even the old man across from them. But they knew Uchiha Ibito. Not to mention that he was the only one in the entire shinobi world who wore such a strange-looking mask, and was stripped by the guy named Hayden in the exam space. Even if he turned to ashes, everyone in the shinobi world felt that they could recognize him at a glance. Hey, why leave Sasuke to face Fruits Danzo on his own? The shinobi crowd nodded in satisfaction as they watched Uzumaki Karen and Uchiha Ibito retreat on screen. It seemed that a few of them were quite respectful of the old and the weak. In their eyes, Shimura Danzo, who was half wrapped in bandages, was simply a typical representative of the old and weak, just short of being critically ill. Thinking of the ending of the story, some people began to sympathize with Shimura Danzo. Say, what's the point of untying the bandages when he's dying? In the footage, Danzo was slowly unraveling the bandages wrapped around his right arm, an action that looked incredibly bizarre at the moment. Shit. In the red group, Shimura Danzo saw this scene, and his single eye snapped shut. Of course, he knew what was on his arm, but those were hidden things. Now, they were about to be exposed by this damn exam space. Damn it. Damn it. Shimura Danzo looked at the screen above him with hatred, then turned his gaze to Uchiha Sasuke and Uchiha Itachi at the forefront. He could think of what would happen when they both saw what came next. Damn it. He blamed Sarutobi Hiruzen's soft-heartedness. Otherwise, he would have killed them both together. This kind of thing wouldn't happen today. At the same time as the hatred in Shimura Danzo's heart grew, on the screen, the bandage on Shimura Danzo's arm had been completely removed. Hiss. Hiss. When the bandage fell off, everything on the arm suddenly caught everyone's eye, and even the exam space gave a close-up. Everyone saw it clearly. Suddenly, inside and outside the examination space, countless people's scalps tingled. Holy shit. What kind of monster is this? Why are there so many eyes on his arm? Shit, those eyes are still moving. It's disgusting. Sounds of cold breath and angry curses resounded in the exam space, making Shimura Danzo's face turn completely gloomy. He grunted coldly, and countless Anbu around him instantly formed a circle, burying him in the crowd. Sharingan. Those eyes. Uchiha Itachi stared at the screen with a deadly gaze, and his eyes were scarlet and started to whirl. On him, a murderous aura solidified, blowing his robe without the need for wind. Sharingan. All of them are Sharingan. Those eyes were even 3 tomo and upwards. Moreover, those eyes were alive. They could still move and still retain the Sharingan's ability. This meant live transplants. Uchiha Itachi shuddered. He couldn't imagine the pain these people suffered when they were subjected to live transplants. He exterminated the whole clan, but all of them were allowed to die without suffering, while Shimura Danzo him. He actually did that. How dare he? Shimura Danzo. Danzo's right palm was embedded with a Sharingan, and along with it, his entire right lower arm was covered with scarlet Sharingans. These Sharingans were surrounded by wrinkled skin. At the moment, with these raised Sharingans constantly rotating, they looked extremely ferocious and bizarre. Coupled with Danzo's pale right arm, it looked extremely chilling at the moment. In the shinobi world, some timid people who saw this scene had already grabbed their hair and began to shout. Even some daring people felt their scalp tingling. Sha Sharingans. Uchiha Sasuke was transfixed. He hadn't seen so many Sharingans since the Uchiha clan was destroyed. But in the next moment, he was furious. Great anger, rage, fury. His eyes began to shift slowly. The 3 tomos spun rapidly, with a faint desire to link together. This Jiraiya and Tsunade looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. They were Hokage's direct connections and had the right to know some information. Shimura Danzo did this for nothing more than gaining the Sharingan's ability all for himself. But that was still horrible. Moreover, it was very scary to think about. However, no matter how one thought about it, they were sure that he was behind the destruction of the Uchiha clan. In the red group, Hyuga Hiyashi's eyes were suddenly opened, and so did the clan elders around him. They looked in horror at Shimura Danzo on the screen, with red eyes all over his right arm, and their expressions were incomparably somber. They were the other great pupil clan in Konoha. Shimura Danzo's arm was full of Sharingans. What about his right eye? Where was that bandaged right eye of his? Could it be the eye of a Hyuga clan member they knew? In recent years, many people of the Hyuga clan had died in battle, and some of their bodies hadn't been recovered. Damn it. Hyuga Hiyashi gritted his teeth. Several people around him heard the scraping sound. Hearing these words, their eyes were filled with killing intent. Atrocity Orochimaru shook his head disdainfully. Transplanting Sharingans to the arm, in his opinion, this experiment was too low-end in its approach and manner. These Sharingans, because the blood supply was inadequate, not to mention the illusion technique, they couldn't even provide acute vision, slowing down movement to the nanoseconds. Perhaps, they could merely provide self-destructive jutsu. This was a waste of superior research resources. Orochimaru sighed, somewhat distressed by these Sharingans. If he had such high-quality experimental materials, he would directly clone several Uchiha Itachi or Uchiha Sasuke to use these eyes. After constant adaptation and constant transformation, the best body could be found for reincarnation. What a pity. In the footage, Danzo untied the bandage on his arm, but didn't untie the bandage on his head. Instead, after performing a few techniques, he charged directly at Uchiha Sasuke. This technique, Izanagi. Uchiha Itachi's eyes whitened instantly. He never thought that Shimura Danzo knew this technique. No wonder he had to transplant so many Sharingans on his arm. Uchiha Itachi didn't have time to think any further. The video showed Shimura Danzo already dashing in front of Uchiha Sasuke and throwing a punch. Bang. He punched Uchiha Sasuke in the stomach, and the tactile feedback from his fist made him understand that he had hit him. Shimura Danzo raised his head with some delight, only to find dark blue bones appeared on Uchiha Sasuke's abdomen. This was what stopped his fist. In the next moment, the dark blue skeleton extended to form a huge palm, which directly grabbed him and constantly squeezed him. Immediately afterward, Uchiha Sasuke's angry voice rang out. Did Uchiha Itachi destroy Uchiha on the orders of Konoha's high command? Boom. 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 Multiple thunderclaps in a row. The young Uchiha Sasuke's entire body was confused when he heard the question he himself asked. He was completely stupefied. Itachi destroying the clan was related to Konoha. The only thought left in his mind flashed. His wildly spinning eyes stopped abruptly, his star-like pupils instantly dissipated, and Uchiha Sasuke fell straight backward. Whoosh. A figure quietly appeared behind him and picked him up. Itachi took a deep look at Sasuke in his arms, and once again set his eyes on the screen. Susanoo. Itachi naturally knew that this was the pupil technique that Mangekyou Sharingan could open, and it was also the third form of Mangekyou Sharingan's power. However, he just saw the hexagram in Sasuke's eyes in the video. That's not just an ordinary Mangekyou. In the video, as Uchiha Sasuke kept applying pressure, Danzo was squeezed all over and quickly spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. Then he spoke somewhat mockingly. I never thought that Uchiha Itachi would be such a person. It seems that you are the most special person for Uchiha Itachi. Damn it. On the video, Uchiha Sasuke heard Danzo's answer and instantly rampaged. The initial projection of Susanoo grew rapidly, directly becoming the first form of Susanoo. It was a huge half-skeletal giant, enveloping Uchiha Sasuke inside, as if it were a demon from the underworld, its entire skeleton burning with purple chakra flames. Its terrifying forehead had 2 horns, and at the nose were deep dark holes. A pair of huge eyes, shining with pure yellow light, just like the yellow river of the underworld, which could take people's souls away just by looking at it. At the moment, it was still squeezing Shimura Danzo in its palm. Its strong palm was like steel, imprisoning him tightly. Uchiha Itachi has revealed the secret to you, he has betrayed Konoha. Shimura Danzo's words didn't even finish. In the next moment, his body was directly crushed. Blood instantly splashed everywhere. Squeezed to death. The fourth Raikage looked at Danzo, who was killed instantly. He knew of Shimura Danzo's identity as the leader of Konoha's root, and his status was even higher than that of Konoha's Hokage advisors. And now, surprisingly, he was crushed alive by this kid from Konoha. They looked at Uchiha Sasuke and Uchiha Itachi arms. This boy is interesting. Especially this huge purple monster, I wonder if I can knock him out. They still remembered that this kid named Uchiha Sasuke would be able to cut off his arm in the future. Jealousy, jealous envy. Inoki inexplicably looked at Tsurumime, and she looked at him. They both saw the bitterness in each other's eyes. Both of them were facing similar situations and were extremely short of talents. Now, apart from the few shinobi who could hold their own, the rest were supported by the 2 cages. Now, look at Konoha alas, such envy. It wasn't enough for them to have Uzumaki Naruto, but there was Uchiha Sasuke too. Just by those eyes, Inoki knew that this boy wasn't a good one to mess with either. Especially that purple skeleton monster. The others didn't know, but Inoki knew. He had been a cage for many years. This technique hadn't been perfected by Uchiha Sasuke yet, but it was indeed that technique. Although it didn't happen, those who lived in his time knew the same. In the fight between the 2 shinobi powerhouses, 2 giant gods could destroy 4 countries. This god-like being was exactly what Uchiha Sasuke had now. Susanoo. Physically blocking, resistance to jutsu, and nearly invincible defense. If we can't get an attack in, we simply can't hurt the person inside. Just when everyone was shocked by Uchiha Sasuke's jutsu and ability, Shimura Danzo, who was already dead, suddenly appeared behind Sasuke. In the next moment, he seemed possessed. He took out a kunai and stabbed Sasuke directly in the back. No. To be exact, it stabbed Susanoo at the spot that was right behind Sasuke. Crap. The kunai that stabbed Susanoo directly broke. The sound of it breaking caught Uchiha Sasuke's attention, and he instantly turned around. Uchiha Sasuke froze when he saw it was Shimura Danzo. Didn't he just crush him? If he couldn't kill him once, then he'll kill him again. Uchiha Sasuke was ruthless. He controlled the upper half of Susanoo's body, accompanied by a heavy hammer, which directly smashed Shimura Danzo into the ground. However, to no one's surprise, Shimura Danzo soon reappeared from the other side. Moreover, there were no obvious scars on his body. Seeing this scene, everyone watching the video instantly looked at Danzo in horror. Illusion technique. The Mizukage, Tsurumime, pursed her red lips slightly. A somewhat puzzled sound rang out as Danzo now showed some similarity with the second Mizukage. Could it be that Uchiha Sasuke wasn't fighting Danzo's real body, but a clone generated by Danzo's secret technique? Isn't this too shameless? Uzumaki Naruto looked at the video and was a little shocked. How could someone fight an indestructible enemy? At the same time, Danzo, who was hiding in the center of the Anbu, saw his body die twice. His face suddenly turned dark. Am I that stupid? Has my combat experience that was accumulated for all that time been thrown to the dogs? Stabbing Susanoo with a kunai, is this something that a human being could do? He felt that he had been vilified in the video. At the moment, he wanted his present self to take over the fight on the screen. The vision on the screen suddenly began to widen, and the camera went to Uzumaki Karen. As a perception-type shinobi, Uzumaki Karen had already discovered that Danzo's body wasn't an illusion technique or a shadow clone, and that Uchiha Sasuke's chakra flow was completely normal. This meant that Uchiha Sasuke hadn't been hit by an illusion technique. But what's going on here? Perception ability. The moderator Uzumaki Nagato saw Uzumaki Karen's ability, and his expression moved slightly. After kicking out Black Setsu, Akatsuki really lacked a perception ability user, and this girl might be able to make up for it. Besides, she was probably one of his own clan members. Amaterasu. In the footage, Uchiha Sasuke whispered, and the Magicum Sharingan in his left eye was instantly filled with red. In the next moment, black flames suddenly flared up on Shimura Danzo's body. Sasuke, behind you. After Sasuke's third strike on Danzo, his eyes and body had begun to feel uncomfortable, and just as he was catching his breath, Uzumaki Karen's nervous voice sounded. Wind release. Vacuum sphere. Danzo's voice sounded, and in the next moment, a shot of wind release jutsu covered the spot where Uchiha Sasuke was. The latter was unable to dodge, and an extra wound appeared on his body instantly. Summoning. Uchiha Sasuke leaped high, jumped out of the jutsu's coverage area, carried out summoning in the air, and summoned an eagle. Meanwhile, Karen, who was watching the battle from outside, suddenly noticed that every time Shimura Danzo revived, one of the Sharingan on his arm would close, and now, the three on the far right had all closed. Sasuke. His ability to come back to life has something to do with the eyes on his arm. In the footage, Uchiha Sasuke, who was extremely experienced in fighting, popped his sword backward, and then rode the eagle towards Shimura Danzo. With the Kusanagi sword in hand, he slashed directly at the Danzo in front of him. Whoosh. Danzo magically took out a kunai again and fought with Sasuke. In the next moment, the shuriken that flew out into the distance suddenly circled back and directly cut off Danzo's right arm, which was full of Sharingans. Uchiha Sasuke took the opportunity to slash, and once again kill Danzo. But Danzo was resurrected once again. Seeing Danzo had revived, Uchiha Sasuke snorted coldly and directly used the other Magicum Sharingan's ability. Then, black crows appeared on Uchiha Sasuke. The crows flew around Shimura Danzo. Suddenly, Danzo noticed that a figure coming out of the murder of crows. Uchiha Itachi. Uchiha Itachi, who came out of the crows, didn't say anything but directly unleashed Amaterasu. And the next moment, the black fire burned and covered Shimura Danzo's whole body. It was just that in the midst of the black fire, Shimura Danzo was as calm as could be. He even started taunting Uchiha Sasuke once again. To be able to catch me in an illusion technique, you deserve praise. But your illusion technique is still too short compared to Uchiha Itachi's Tsukiyomi. After saying that, Uchiha Sasuke's body suddenly lit up with red lines, as if it was sealed with a jutsu, restricting his movements. Shimura Danzo took advantage of the moment when he touched Uchiha Sasuke and laid this technique. At this critical moment, Uzumaki Karen, who was watching the battle from afar, jumped onto the stone pillar in one leap. She was instantly kicked by Danzo and shot back with a speed several times faster than when she came. Then Shimura Danzo pulled the sword from Uchiha Sasuke's hand and prepared to finish Sasuke off. At the same time, he still slandered Sasuke and Itachi. I really don't understand why Itachi would let a piece of trash like you survive in the world. Uchiha Sasuke was almost going crazy when he heard Danzo taunt himself with Itachi again. No, he had gone crazy. Uchiha Sasuke growled like an angry beast. He was going to kill this guy, regardless of anything that happens. For this reason, he didn't hesitate to use the technique originally used to counter Uchiha Madara. Amid Sasuke's roar, a huge purple skeleton instantly rose from his body. Susanoo. Then, a chakra creation that seemed like flesh and blood began to take shape. In just an instant, the original skeleton Susanoo had been covered with meridians and flesh and blood. That's not all. The Susanoo wrapped in chakra was still evolving and even had its own exclusive weapon. The bow and arrow appeared in its hand, and the second form of Susanoo allowed Sasuke to break the seal on him directly. Then, Sasuke controlled Susanoo to bend his bow and arrow and shot at Danzo. Danzo looked at the flying bow and arrow and grunted coldly. The bandages wrapped around the right half of his body instantly broke open. Danzo slammed the ground, and a large tree immediately rose from the ground. At the same time, the crowd just saw that on Danzo's right arm there was a face. A pale face with its eyes closed. Grandpa. Damn it. No wonder he's a recluse. The moment she saw that face, Senju Tsunade was instantly furious. She angrily looked at the Danzo in the footage, not expecting that he would dare to transplant her grandfather Hashirama's cells. How did he not get swallowed up by Grandpa's cells? By her side, Orochimaru nodded his head at Shimura Danzo. The first Hokage's cells were so powerful that they were transplanted into his own body to boost his own body's energy, and then use those cells to nourish the Sharingans. No wonder these Sharingans could survive for so many years. It seemed that his arm was white, not because of the lack of blood supply, but because it was an arm that was regenerated with wood release. As for the face on his right shoulder, Orochimaru knew it by heart. He had done related experiments and knew that Hashirama's cells had strong memories. Danzo had failed to completely obliterate the will in Hashirama's cells, which gave birth to Hashirama's face. Although it was ugly, it was also a sign that Danzo had successfully mastered Hashirama's cells. Behind Orochimaru, Hyuga Hiashi clenched his fist to death. As the bandages on Shimura Danzo's body continued to unravel, he felt more and more that there was something wrong with Shimura Danzo's right eye under those bandages. With Danzo's strange character, it was very likely that a Byakugan was transplanted into his right eye. Sasuke, kill him quickly. He's not immortal now. Hearing Uzumaki Karen's prompt, it showed how Sasuke didn't care to listen to Danzo's continuous chatter. He directly controlled Susanoo, bent his bow, and shot an arrow at Danzo again. But it was too late. Danzo finished his jutsu quickly, and in the next moment, Danzo's body, which had been penetrated by his sword, began to illuminate once again. Then, he appeared unharmed again. And that concludes this episode. If you enjoyed it, I'd seriously love it if you guys could leave a like on the video, as it genuinely helps out so much, and it keeps me going, plus it takes only 1 second. That said, have a wonderful day. See you in the next one.